Good afternoon, good evening, and good day to everybody. I want to give a shout out to Zach P, and let's get into it. So, first up, sorry, I was distracted by a video that came up here on the Twitter. So, since these two weren't even on my list, let's just start there. First one is Crash Aftermath. So, if you don't like looking at wrecked cars, let's have you look away. And the next one is an interesting video. All right, so first up, Clark Gregg and his family were in their 2013 Tesla, and the oncoming car hit a boulder, and they walked away relatively unscathed thanks to the airbags. So, that's why I'm driving a tank. And then East Bay Club Tesla says literally no one, Tesla fan, ever seen a Tesla teabag. It's literally dipping a teabag into a cup, which is interesting. Yep, that's true. All right, so what I actually wanted to get here today was let's start with an article we got from the Tesla Life. But first, let's look at the chat here. They moved all my buttons around, so bear with me. So first up is Robert Griffith is the first one in the chat, and he says, hello there, how are you? He shared with me a really affordable Model 3 over in England, and it was super cheap. It was like 23,000 pounds. I was surprised. He only had 16,000 miles on it. It was a 2019, so I didn't look in to see why it was so cheap, but the pictures look nice and everything. All right, so let's share with you this article we got from Teslarati via the Tesla Life Twitter. So Mark retweeted this. Says that the Model Y structural battery pack is referenced in an updated owner's manual, and let's take a look at right there in the manual. So right here they're telling you your jack points for a regular Model Y, but there's a little bit of text in here that says if your Model Y is equipped with the structural battery pack, the exact location of the lift points will differ slightly. Check the vehicle itself for the exact location of the lift points. Which is kind of a weird way to put it. So I guess that they're close enough that Tesla didn't want to actually bother to put two drawings in. But at the same time, they're telling you to visually check it out before you go pick up your car. So I'm guessing that it'll be in that same exact general area, but maybe off by a couple millimeters. Eddie asks, are Teslas easy to purchase in the UK? They're about the same as the US, but the problem is you have to wait for them to make a run of right-hand drive cars, either in America or China, and get them on a boat to the UK. So once supply runs low, the resupply is lengthy. And their used car situation is looking very much like ours, where it's a lot easier to get a hold of used cars, but you're paying a premium for them, so buyer beware on that. And so that was the only bit about the structural pack is that you need to look in a different place for the actual jack points, which the fact they put it in the manual just tells us even further this is coming soon. And combine that with all the drone army shots we saw of Terra, Texas, where they've got Model Y bodies running around outside with holes in the floor. The existing Model Y and Model 3, they without the structural pack, they don't have a hole in the floor. I mean, there is a hole there, but it doesn't go all the way through. Like, you can't drop something in where the glass would be into the ceiling and then the roof, and then have it go through and come out where the floorboards should be. There's metal in between there all over, so that's exciting. It also tells us that we may be getting some really exciting news on Wednesday at the earnings call, and I'm looking forward to that. Speaking of looking forward to the future, Elon's got a tweet. We'll start rolling out FSD beta in Canada cautiously in the next 2 to 4 weeks. That's exciting. That was in reply to any update on this. Very soon is not feeling so soon. Elon said there are subtle, important differences between the US and Canada traffic rules, but FSD beta will be extended to Canada very soon. He said that the day after Christmas in 2020. Yeah, it's not seeming very soon at all. Oh my goodness, it's over a year later. At the same time, he never did elaborate what the subtle differences are between the U.S. and Canadian rules, and we've talked with several Canadian Tesla owners, and they can't tell us the difference either, other than stuff is written in kilometers. So hopefully it'll just happen. And this was in response to an Elon joke. Good thing I've never tweeted anything controversial. Uh, he knows it's sarcasm. Get fired from your job in 5 to 10 years. Join Twitter today. Say anything you want. Wait 5 to 10 years. Surprise, you're fired. It's true. You should still think before you speak online. All right, so let's see. Eddie says, "What about Japan? How are sales there?" There's similar situation to England, except that they not only are they right-hand drive, they have the American charge port. So I'm not sure if they are getting any vehicles sourced from China. I mean, it would seem straightforward to just ship them with the TSLA two charge ports, and then just build the car in China. It's a lot shorter to ship it, but I don't know. I don't know. But that adds an extra wrinkle to it. Plus, as we've seen on some Model X's in, well, not some, but all Model X's in Japan, and some other large vehicles as well, you have to have a video camera display. So they actually have like a little 3-inch screen elsewhere in the car. That seems like they just got it aftermarket and pasted it in there, and it shows you one of the sides of the car. I don't have it at hand, but I'll have to find that for you guys. That was pretty interesting. So let's reuse this tweet window and see if I can't find it. Da, 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 da. Hey. That's not Japan. They give me all this stuff that's not Japan. And the recalls. Maybe if I do image search, Tesla. I think Bjorn saw one. I don't know if he's been to Japan. Tesla. There's other car makers that use this system, so it kind of helps muddy my search. Search for a video. Search extra screen. I'll give up on this in a minute. Mm, go to YouTube real quick. I mean, I know you guys are on YouTube, but Japan. I don't know. They're all just ignoring the fact that I put in the word Japan. We'll deal with it later. So let's see. Hi, Zachary. Japanese drivers versus USA cars. I wouldn't necessarily say that. I would say that they are partial to Japanese cars, as so many Americans are to American cars, which totally makes sense to me. All right, let's close this YouTube search. What I'll do, if I come across that item again, I will probably tweet it and put it on my Facebook, but I'll also try and remember to save it to share on a future stream. Unless one of you guys finds it and puts it in the chat so I can share it with the group. Let's see here. This one was from Trevor, also talking about the structural Model Y. So let's see. Let's close that. There we go. I wasn't all the way to the top. That's why it feels like I'm out of order from where I was intending to be, because I am. So there was a full page ad in the New York Times the last time we chatted, and I don't know if we touched on it at all. I probably skipped it because it was so close to when we went live, and it was kind of seemed like drama, and I try not to do too much with the drama. So Elon says in response to somebody, we'll get to that in a minute. Green Hill Software is a pile of trash. Linux for the win. And Dave Lee is responding to Dan O'Dowd. He's saying, I think it's only fair and honest for you to disclose which Tesla competitors your company, Green Hill Software, have taken money from. And Dan O'Dowd, this guy who took out the over $200,000 full page, full color ad in the New York Times under a front organization of the Real Dawn Project, which is really controlled by Green Hill Software, says, talking about his ad that he placed, which is, let's call it unvetted garbage. And then what we'll do is we'll share a link to Transport Evolve's video where they go through and address it point for point and debunk it all. And I thought it was very solid because Nikki has a reputation, it's not true, but a reputation that she's anti-Tesla. So to see her rip this report to shreds, her whole thing is she's going for journalistic integrity. And so when somebody's putting out straight lies with no methodology, well, no acceptable methodology, it made it very easy for her to do her job of exposing the truth. And so that's what that video is. Check that out after this one. And so this guy alleges that, every 38 minutes Tesla is killing somebody because FSD is untrusted, blah blah blah. But see, the thing is, FSD is just an assist, just like cruise control. It's just better at it than basic cruise control. And on top of that, there are no FSD crashes reported yet. So let me pull up the Tesla safety report while we're at it before I move on to other things. Oh, that's where that window was. I was looking for a window earlier today. Oh no, it just moved the tab to this window. I was looking for the whole window, but whatever. The whole point was I needed this website, and yeah, I've got 1,000 tabs open right now, and I don't know where that window went, but here is a tab from it. Tesla safety report goes on to show that the regular auto steer, regular autopilot is not infallible. They admit that it has quite a few crashes, but their crashes are less than a human. So what we find, Tesla's reporting here, in the fourth quarter, we recorded one crash every 4.31 million miles driven, which was in which drivers were using autopilot technology, which is auto steer and active safety features. For drivers who were not using autopilot technology, no auto steer, no active safety features, we recorded one crash every 1.59 million miles driven. By comparison, NHTSA's most recent data show that an automobile crash occurs every 484,000 miles. So we're talking over 3 times better with autopilot on, and almost more than double with just having a Tesla with the features, but not even doing anything. So that right there, combined with the fact that there are no FSD crashes, shows that this guy is just way out there. But what it turns out is that his company supplies operating systems to suppliers for other automobile makers. So, like Mobileye, which is what Tesla used for AP1, they use this software, and BMW, he's really proud that he's in the BMW iX and a couple other cars. Ah, Omar's here. Omar, we're talking about this guy who took out that full page ad on the Teslas.
Full page ad on Teslas?
Yeah, the Green Hill Software / somebody Dawn Project. Yeah, I just pointed out that Nikki did a thorough takedown of him, and I was just touching on why he was wrong about Tesla crashing every 38 minutes on FSD. Besides the fact that there were no FSD crashes.
That's clearly not what the data says.
Exactly.
So when you actually look at facts,
yeah,
that all that nonsense is debunked.
Right, and these numbers, they go up and down based on the weather. So like here, back before the snow started, they were at 4.97 million miles per crash. And then, when it cools down and you get ice in the snow and shorter daylight hours, the crashes actually increased. So, I mean,
As it does for everybody, for all cars.
Exactly. The reason that the non-Tesla cars doesn't update every quarter is because they're pulling a government report, so that will probably update once a year. Yeah. So they. Oh no, it is referenced every quarter. No, no, no. Since we've released our last quarterly report, NHTA has released new safety data, which we've referenced in this quarter's report. So then this number should change for this quarter. Yep, 479. So even regular cars, they got a little better on that other report, but we're only talking, uh, less than 10 million, less than 10,000 miles per crash, whereas the Tesla still exceeded that by a heap.
By a lot.
Yeah. What's up, Marcus?
Hey, hello everyone.
Marcus, what's up?
Hey, Omar.
Yeah, we were talking about the guy who pulled that smear campaign that came out last week after the show or during the show or right before it. The
Which
one
one?
saying that the Tesla crashes on autopilot, or sorry, on FSD
Oh,
every 38 minutes, even though there hasn't been a single reported crash.
oh yeah, that was right at the show last. Yeah,
Yeah. With
that
the FSD
was.
data, there hasn't been any crashes at all, but yet, oh,
Right,
they're crashing all the time. They're just crashing in everybody. Really? That's
right,
not what the data says.
right. The closest calls we've seen, like where a car curbs a wheel or whatever, we find that either the person took over and crashed themselves into the barrier, or they weren't using the system correctly. So you can't really say that FSD drove me into a wall if the car is beeping at you to take over and then you don't, or it's beeping at you to take over and then you steer into the wall.
Right.
Speaking of FSD, Omar and I have this problem with our cars where, ever since they turned off my radar, and then his car shipped without radar, where they 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 don't like direct sunlight in their eyes. And they just kind of say, "Hey, it's your turn," and they give you the controls. And this morning, I was taking Luna to work, and we were on FSD, and then this truck, the right rear tire of the quad sets of tires on the trailer, the outside right rear tire was disintegrating actively, and so I was riding the paint, and the car didn't like that, and it kept trying to steer me back into the lane. It's like, oh, I'm helping you out because you can't drive straight. I'm like, no, I got this. Then the truck passed us, so I turned back on FSD, or actually navigating on autopilot, regular auto steer, and and then it was going fine for a while. And then the minivan behind us, well, we passed the truck once, and the truck passed us. So at one point, the minivan behind us, there was a Sienna, also did the same thing. They didn't just ride the paint; they were driving in the shoulder basically to get away from this actively exploding tire. It hadn't started throwing chunks yet, but you could see the rubber was just in strips, and it was not going to be
Right.
pretty, and nobody wants that. And
Definitely.
yeah, so they were in the shoulder, and I submitted a report to the FSD team saying, hey, this is why you got to look at context. But after the truck had passed us, I turned it back on, and it centered itself in the lane, was cruising, and then it just quit. It's like, yep, your turn. Boop, boop, red steering wheel, hold the wheel, and then I had to manually drive the whole way. It's no cruise control. What annoys me most about when it's in this mode is it's still backseat drives. It's like, hey, that light's green, or hey, the road curves to the right up here. Hey, the road curves to the left. Hey, you're not centered in the lane. No, no stuff. I'm not centered in the lane. I'm not a machine.
Exactly.
And then it still has the nerve to correct your steering if you happen to touch the lane. And it's like, well, if you can do all of this, how can you not drive this whole machine? And I totally respect and appreciate that if it's not at 100%, that they don't pretend that everything's normal and that they don't try and drive the car. I appreciate that. But what I'm suggesting to Tesla, I put this in my email as well. How about, since the car is already not driving itself for the most part, we push the control icon, the little car icon, push that, then go to the service menu, and then have a reboot, restart, garbage collect, whatever. Just give me a fresh FSD session button, and just restart the computer, restart the cameras. Because right now the solution is you park your car for 30 minutes without Sentry mode turned on. That's fine for local driving. It's just annoying. But when you're on a long trip, say I'm coming from right now I'm in Virginia. I'm going to Virginia and I'm going up to the Palmer House Inn up in Massachusetts. I don't really want to spend an additional 30 minutes parked
Right.
with the cameras turned off. because you got to be out of the car. It's got to be completely off so it can do whatever it is it does. How about I know it's not driving. I'm having to manually control the wheel and the speed. Like, because remember, I always reference this. My '95 Nissan pickup truck with the 5-speed and the manual mirrors and the manual. No, it had electric mirrors and the manual windows. It had cruise control, just basic cruise control, and then I understand why Tesla doesn't fall back to manual cruise control, and I do know that they do have it on the cars where you don't have autopilot or auto steer at all, like the pre
Like the older Model S's.
the older Model S's, like the pre autopilot cars, Autopilot 1, as well as the $35,000 cars, the handful they made that you actually had to give back auto steer, give back rear heated seats, and then you also have regular cruise control as well. But the reason I think they don't fall back to that is it's very easy to forget, and then you find yourself creeping up on another car, and it not stopping when they stop. I kind of understand that, but at the same time, you should be driving. So if it does rapidly approach the car in front of you, you should be smashing the brake anyway, rather than seeing what happens. But I for that reason, I can see them seeing a customer forgetting that they don't have any sort of smart cruise and then running into stuff and blaming the car. Even if they have like a flashing car will not stop, like it does when you manually push the accelerator when it's in a self-driving or self-assisted mode of some sort. But
Yeah, so
a
for my
reset button
commute
would be
every
helpful.
day, I commute. My commute to work every day is in the morning. I head east, so in the evening I'm heading west. So the sun is like usually right there in the sweet spot where the camera doesn't like it.
Yeah.
On my way to work. Now, fortunately, on the way home, usually it's good. It all depends on time of year and everything. Like this time of year, it's good,
Yeah.
but
A couple days a year, it's right in there.
it depending on time of year, that the sun can be right in the right spot to where I could literally sometimes both ways to and from work not be able to use autopilot because
Or cruise control.
right or cruise control or cruise control because it doesn't like the position of the sun and it's washing out the camera.
Yeah.
So that's a problem that Tesla is really going to have to address and figure out if they really truly want to get to true full self-driving, is figuring out what to do about the cameras being washed out by the sun. Now, I don't know if that means they have to have more cameras so that they're at different heights and one can take over for the other or something, or I don't, that way it's a different angle. I don't know what they're going to have to do, but
Yeah.
they got to figure something out. And it may not even be something they could retrofit in the current hardware. I just don't think current hardware is going to be able to do it.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough to have robotaxis set up where, hey, I know you're trying to get to work, but we can't go east in the morning. Sorry, take another ride. Oh, you want to come home? Sorry, you gotta wait another hour. It's sunset right now. We can't handle this. Or it makes a big circle, like it takes you on a 100-mile loop instead of like a 20-mile drive. So I mean, the guy is wrong, but Tesla does have room to improve. That's all I'm saying there. And I did email the FSD team. I said, hey, this would be my solution. Is since it's already not doing anything, you can see if there's a passenger in the passenger seat. Maybe they can push the button if you're afraid of me looking down at the screen. But at the same time, you let me adjust the temperature in the radio. So what's one more thing for me to hit service menu, reboot the cameras? I understand rebooting won't fix it if it's the sun, but if it's a matter of where you have to park the car for 30 minutes, how about you just do all that stuff while I manually drive the car, and then you give me a tone, or you turn off the little warning message and say, hey, we're back. We can do this now. Because 30 minutes added to, because you can't do this while supercharging either. The car has to literally be idle. So it's not like you can just go get lunch and recharge it. It just doesn't happen. The other way you can do it is to turn off the 12 volt and high voltage power, but it's not the recommended way, because if you do that the wrong way, aside from potentially shorting something out, is that if the computer's not expecting to turn off, you could end up in a state where you've corrupted something. But I did find with somebody who worked for Tesla when we discovered this problem for my car, is that if you do pull the 12 volt power and pull the high voltage power and then power it up in the correct direction, which one goes first, high voltage or 12 volt. Everything's ready to go, but I don't travel with with my battery socket tools, and again, I don't want to risk corrupting my system, because if I do that, then they're going to say that's not warranty. Give us some money, son.
Absolutely.
Hey,
Oh, you want to do
that,
MCU? That'd be $2,000 plus labor.
hey, that I've been saying that ain't like corrupting an SD card or something. You know how you can,
Right.
it's totally different ball game. Yeah,
Right.
Right.
Oh, yeah. So you also need a tow while you're thousands of miles from home.
yeah, yes.
Exactly.
It all adds up.
Yeah, you don't want to brick your car in the middle of a road trip.
Yeah. So rather than look for the right size socket on our trip back from Massachusetts over the Thanksgiving, we did try to park the car for 25 minutes, and it wasn't enough time. So then I manually drove
Wow.
from
Wow.
Delaware to here, which hurt my foot, man. I know it sounds spoiled, but a '95 pickup truck. It's how old is that now? So it's over 20 years. My brand new car should still be able to do that. Yeah. So next up, we had we talked about some of the cars getting the same processor that's in smoke over there in the Model S Plaid. Tesla lowers the Model 3 range estimates in Europe for power consumption of the AMD Ryzen processor. But then after this, we saw, I don't know if I actually included it right after this because of the way I told you guys I collect my news. And I don't know if it made it in today's show. But what happened is we found out that on the US models, the range actually increased for the ones with the Ryzen processor. So either something's different about the test, or people were freaking out over nothing. But it was up to 14 miles equivalent range loss for just having the new chip. And it's like, ooh, I don't want to lose 20 miles for a faster screen. And other folks were like, hey, my system's a dog. I'd like a new one, please. And so I was thinking the whole time, it's probably somewhere in between. And
That's
it totally
interesting.
was. Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have thought that it would use up that much more power for it to be a
Right.
14-mile difference. Like that's interesting.
Right. And so the way I described it was, I said it's kind of like having an extra Sentry mode on all the time, one that you can't turn off. All right. So let's see what they
Yeah, but
came
if it's
up with.
performing the same task as the other chip,
It should be closer in power consumption. Yes.
yeah,
Oh, 17 miles. I'm sorry. I thought it was 14. Conversely, Model 3 long range saw its range estimate decrease 7 miles, depending on the wheel selected. Oh, there we go. There's the update I was talking about. Tesla started notifying customers in Australia about the range drop, confirming a report that is due to the new processing requiring more power. And then, hopefully, Drive Tesla Canada has the update I'm looking for, so I don't have to go find it. They don't. But then, like I said, there was a range increase in the U.S. with it, so it was just weird to me. Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, but it could be because of this next thing right here. What do you see through the roof of that car there?
The floor.
Yeah. So what that means is that this is a structural car, because as I was saying at the beginning of the show, there's normally a floor pan here on the non-structural cars. So this is exciting.
Structural
This is
battery packs. Okay, so
yeah.
are they going with a 4680
Yes.
structure? Or are they still going to use the? Are they making the other cells structural?
They totally could do 2160s,
2170s or
2170s as structural, but that would require redoing the equipment again for the 4680s. So it looks like they're just going to put 4680 structurals in to begin with.
that's
And
exciting.
is that the new red or is that the regular red? It's kind of tough to tell in this screen cap.
It's the base coat for the regular red. I don't
There
know.
you go. Oh, that's true, because the regular red is triple coated. That's part of why it costs so much, because they got to run it through so many times. So let's see here. So I got a bigger copy of the picture. And yeah, so the floor and battery and basically the whole interior come in as one piece, which is just wicked cool to me. Like literally, I don't even know that if that piece stays.
I like the progress. I like the fact that they're going with the structural battery pack now, and that they're gonna start using them in the Model Ys, which means that they're most likely gonna use the 4680 cells. Now is that going to have a significant change to the range? Probably not. They'll probably use less cells,
that part.
so that way they can make more cars.
Yeah, because less cells, lighter pack because
Lighter
there's
pack.
less involved. Yep.
Because
yeah,
the 4680s have a better energy density and everything, so they can get more efficiency out of it. They can make them a little lighter weight. And if they use less cells to get roughly the same range,
they can make more cars.
Then they can make more cars with the number of cells they're producing. So
Yeah,
they
don't have enough batteries as it is. That's why you're seeing. If somebody lost their Model X this week, and I went to see what it would take for me to replace my car with as close to the same options as I have today on the new one, and I would be getting my car in October if I put in the order earlier this week, which I'm not going to do, but for a new Model X to replace this one, and October.
Yeah, well,
from mid-January.
But again, the Model X is in lower production numbers than the other vehicles, so you know.
But part of that is not having enough cells. Part of that is the chip supply, blah blah blah, and the backlog. But
and the difficulty in making the Model X. I mean, the engineering behind that is I mean, that's a heck of a machine.
It is. Fabergé egg. So speaking of car changes, let's take a look at this. So Omar had to add his own cargo hooks, and now Tesla has finally decided to include them on the Made in China Model Y, as well as the partial shelf.
Oh, they're getting that now?
Yeah. Our Model S had something similar, didn't it? It didn't look like that.
Model S had
it had tie downs.
Shelf.
It had the partial shelf for sure, but it had like little chrome tie downs too, didn't it?
I don't remember if it had the tie downs for like a cargo net. I know it did in the frunk, but not.
Yeah.
But in the trunk, I'm not sure.
And my frunk didn't because I had the larger D size frunk. I differentiate that because then they have the bioweapon D frunk, which was slightly bigger than a Model 3 frunk.
So I had the. He
had the massive.
I had the biggest frunk they ever made with the additional area,
the microwave
that you reach in for. Yeah. And for that area there was there were hooks, and you could buy a little cargo net that you could put over that keeps things inside of that part of it.
Yeah. Oh, they finally have a cargo net for the Model X now that we don't even want one.
Now that you don't want one, of course, that's how that goes.
Yeah. So my wife and I, when we were looking to get the Model X originally, we were looking for like a cargo net like this, and now that's available, I showed my wife, and she's like, "Yeah, no." I'm like, "It's only $50." She said, "No." I said, "We have a discount." She said, "No." So, like I said, now that we don't even want it, there it is, and it looks great. But and our seats are usually down too. But at the same time, I'm kind of glad she said no because I'm looking at where it mounts to, and we've got these little leatherette, fake leather covers on the rear seats, so the carpet doesn't get all nasty with cargo when you fold it down like that. But if you are interested in a cargo net, it's only $50 at shop.tesla.com. Yeah. So what we expect to see now, based on the way that we see Tesla handle Made in China Model 3 and Model Y, is that eventually these items will make their way across the pond to us, and we'll see them either become standard or optional, probably standard. Once Tesla can secure enough of them to put them on the assembly line and to make sure that they are as robust as the engineering reports said that they should be. And speaking of Model X changes, this one was one that was a little interesting for us. Kyle Field got off the phone with Tesla. They're not honoring October order of a 7-seat Model X Plaid. Offered to give us a 6-seat Plaid for the same price. Downgrade to a standard Model X or cancel the order. Shaking my head. This one is interesting. In his case, I would say the downgrade to the other car, that stings. But the switching for the same price to the 6-seat is actually about $2,000 savings, because Tesla charges a pretty penny to go to the 6-seat, because they're not just simple mechanical folding seats like they are on the 5-seat and the 7-seat. They're the pedestal, beautiful, sculpted, that the Model X shipped with. And for a lot of us, like myself included, we want the middle seats to fold, and the Tesla pedestal seats don't fold. So I can understand his frustration. But if we were to redo this, and I would probably get the 6-seat Plaid and then the 6-seat Cybertruck, because we don't often use that 7th seat. But if we have the truck, I won't need the middle seat to fold anymore, because one will be the people hauler and one will be the truck. But right now we're a one car family, and we need our SUV to be an SUV, and so I need the middle seats to fold. That's why we picked the one that we did, and waited for it, because the 7-seat used to have the pedestal in the middle, so it was a 6-seat with a power middle seat as well, and so they switched it to a folding seat, and that's when we pulled the trigger.
So you have the 7-seat?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Regarding deleted tweet below, we looked at that. And
yeah, because of that, because of it not folding, I would have probably went with the 5-seat.
Yeah. Yeah, if they had never done a folding 7-seat, we probably would have also done a 5. Because at the time we were driving a Model S 90D, and my argument was, I don't want an SUV that has less cargo room than my sedan.
Right.
And that's the case with the 6-seat. It can't hold as much cargo.
Yeah, that's counterproductive.
Yeah. And so let's go to the Tesla.com/Model X. And I understand, this is the most profitable one for them, and having only one option other than colors come through means that they can turn them out faster, blah, blah, blah. I get it on both sides. So let's order now. All right, so we want a Plaid. Oh, wait, we don't want a Plaid because we want to see the price difference between a 5 and 7-seat. All right, so a 6-seat is $6,500. 7-seat is only $3,500. All right, so then I'm going to go up and change it to Plaid. And now I only have one seating layout available. They've moved it to a 6. It's included.
We're giving it to you in the price.
We're giving you seats, Bo. What more do you want? Oh, you thought you were going to stand in the car? Home Depot buckets? No, we got you. Here's some seats. Yeah, so I'm hoping that nothing happens to mine before Cybertruck is ready, because it's exactly what we need. I mean, I would like some of the new features, but it still is doing what we built it to do. So, all right, and then this one was kind of disturbing to me, because every now and then you hear YouTubers like myself. I don't have to say it yet, but don't come to my house. If you see me out in public, say hey, but don't dwell and don't bug my family. But Elon's got it a bit worse, because he's a lot more visible than any YouTuber. Drive Tesla Canada was reporting that these other folks were reporting that Elon was going to be in a Model Y that was built in Giga Berlin when he visits Germany, and they said hopefully later this week. Elon says, I obviously can't comment on every rumor, but this isn't true. I'm headed to Berlin in February, not this week. And then I think the next tweet is him. No, it's not. But later on, he asks people to stop tracking his plane because it. What?
Undo. Don't mute him.
And so he said basically stop following him because it's it's not good for his family.
It's annoying.
It's not as annoying, but some
well,
people don't know their
safety
boundaries.
concern too.
Yeah,
it's come to. So I did see in a Twitter thread where someone was commenting. Actually somebody else commented, "Hey guys, stop posting his location. That's annoying." But then Elon then replied to that tweet and said, it's actually becoming a safety concern as well at this point. So, all the people that's like kind of tracking his movements and being, I understand, the super fanboys and all that. Just stop tweeting out his location and making it easier for those people that might want to do him harm.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that when you mention his name, they start foaming at the mouth, and it's like,
Yeah.
what did he
They
do to
posted
you?
out here. They posted out here one on my Austin group, on a little thing, and I say the same thing. It's glad, especially out here in Austin area. He's Elon spotted here, Elon spotted. I'm like, I get it, but that's annoying to me. Just give man some privacy, man,
Yeah.
Right.
and it's security, man, security.
And especially the security aspect of it, because remember, he's disrupting multiple industries. So there's a lot of people
Yeah,
who have
exactly.
a lot of money involved, he's costing them a ton of money. He's costing the oil industry a ton of money. The dealership model, that whole thing. There's all types of industry that he's disrupting. So he's costing a lot of people a lot of money. So there's a lot of people with a lot of hatred for him. So, just keep that in mind. Like we want him to be around, see what else he can come up with.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's go through his Twitter while we're here, and let's start with this one. So he promised us graffiti at Giga Berlin, and oops, I clicked cancel instead of share. He promised us graffiti at Giga Berlin, and here's a sample of what they got. That actually looks really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Space must be. Space must what?
Flow.
Spice must flow. Yes. The spice must flow. That was a bit much, but let's see. Then he's talking about how the Starship catch will go. He said maybe something like this. So this is catching the booster. Hopefully they'll show us one for catching the Starship itself. Like chopsticks.
I mean, the amount of precision that he's going to have for that, because there's a lot to go wrong. You're not just risking losing your rocket; you're risking losing your whole platform
and launchpad, because it's
and
right
launchpad
there,
that you just had to catch the thing with. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I guess that's how he plans on steering it and getting that precision for the landing.
Exactly. And then he called this one Frankenbeans, which is that same that we saw in the animation. It's actually moving. It's a time lapse though, so I'm curious what it'll take. I mean, they had some large boulders. They weren't actually boulders, but they were sacks of something, and they were huge to simulate the weight of the Starship while they were doing their test there. And CGI in real life. That's right, John. You can't just call it Frankenbeans without a story. You can. If you have to explain it, it might not be PG anymore.
We're just going to leave it at that.
That's right. Tesla AI might play a role in artificial general intelligence, given that it trains against the outside world, especially with the advent of Optimus. It's something he also often calls Optimus Subprime, which is the Tesla bot. But even before the Tesla bot, all three of our cars, they're equipped with learning computers, and they can recognize the outside world and they interact with it. But they need more training, and the beauty is we're training it. So even if you didn't buy FSD, it's still sending stuff home. But if you're in FSD beta, it's sending a lot more home every day. Mine is sent gigabytes every day back to the mothership. Lex says,
"Oh yeah, they got all the data."
Exactly. Learn to drive. Learn to think. Learn to love. Aww. I feel sad. I have this image of the fifth element when Lilo's heart is broken because she learned the cruelty of man is capable of. This is true. Hopefully, we don't train our AI to be evil, which is one of the things that Elon and Bill Gates are afraid of, but Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg are not afraid of. So hopefully the hopefully the cautious ones
Hopefully,
win
we
this.
err on the side of caution.
Yes, because it would be terrible to just assume that we're so smart we can do whatever and the computer will never catch up to us, and the computer knows this, and so then it plays dumb, and then when it's ready, we're toast. But if we're cautious, then hopefully we do it in a way that doesn't hurt us. And AGI would probably not drive your car. Maybe. It depends on how. I think a super intelligence would not drive our car. Because the super intelligence would have way more to deal with. Let's go on to the next tweet. And it was a picture of one of the launches that went off recently. You got Falcon 9 in front of the moon. It's a beautiful picture.
That is a nice picture.
Yeah. So then, Elon gives us some stats on Starlink. There's 1469 satellites active, with 272 moving into their operational orbits, and the lasers activate soon.
So those lasers activate. I want to see what that does for the latency, the throughput, and everything.
Right. So the lasers.
I think you're going to see some improvements.
Exactly. I think the lasers will fulfill the promise that Elon made to us with Starlink, because if you don't have to keep bouncing it back to the ground at each time you go over the horizon, then each satellite can service more people, and then your latency goes down, because now it's actually faster to talk via laser in space than it is any sort of method on the ground, because a laser on the ground has to go through glass or plastic, which slows it down. And if it's going through electrical wires, again, that's a medium that's slowing it down. And if you do radio, it has to go through the air, so that's also slowing it down. So this is going to be massive, and I'm excited to see it happen. Is Starlink IPO still a few years away? This is true, but it's a fair question. More to life than investing and making money. Dave helped 100 people from Afghanistan using a platform he built based off investing. Through investing, Dave helps people. That's cool. So Jeff is asking what the laser links do. So what they do is they allow the satellites to connect directly to each other. So they point their laser at the next satellite in the chain, or at least the next one they could see, and then that satellite, if it needs to talk back to it, has its laser pointed at that first satellite's receiver, and they can talk directly rather than having to talk through a ground station. Part of the problem with the ground stations is, that's real estate, and you got to either rent it or buy it, and you got to have hardware down there, and then you've got the travel time up and down from space and Earth at each hop. Whereas if they talk directly, you only need to talk. Your station talks to the satellite talks to the next one all the way down the chain, and then at the end it talks down to the final station or the final point. So if you're talking to YouTube and YouTube's got Starlink, it can go up to space, go over to Google, and come back down, and it's done. Or if you're sharing photos with your mom, goes up into space, goes over to her, comes down at her terminal, rather than having to go over the open internet, which is pretty cool. Or if you are talking to the open internet, it can drop down right at the local node, rather than having to go across the country or across the ocean, which is really bad. I mean, look at Tonga right now. Tonga lost their only internet connection, among other things. I'm just saying that the internet connection is the least of their concerns with the volcanic eruption. But if they had Starlink or something similar, then they could still communicate at full speed, assuming they had electricity to do so. When you look at regular internet plans for boats and for ground stations, they have to go up to a geostationary orbit, which is really slow, really expensive, and this stands to disrupt that. It's another group of people who's out against Elon because he's messing with their money.
Right. I saw on Twitter there was a speed comparison that was done between Starlink and like two other satellite internet companies, and
it doesn't even compare.
The difference was it was crazy.
It was like a Tesla
And
versus
that's
a
and that's the
versus a
average
Sentra.
speed, and that was the aggregate of the average speeds now.
Yeah,
This is before lasers. So
exactly.
once he gets those lasers operational, we should see even better numbers.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like if you saw the first Model S racing against the entry level gas car with a manual transmission back then, it was that kind of level of separation. I mean, the current satellite providers they can provide some download speed, but the latency and if you need to talk two directions, it doesn't happen the way it needs to happen. So Joel is telling us that the beans are bags of water, simulated for the 170 tons of the Starship booster. See, there we go. I like that. 4G is a
Okay.
50% signal here now. Speaking of 4G, we just finally had our 5G finally turned on here, except for around the airports.
Yeah, there was a big concern. I know that the airlines pushed back hard. There was real
But
big concern about
I'm
5G
wondering,
interfering.
I'm wondering how valid those concerns are, though, because you had the FAA and the FCC say, "Yeah, no, just do it," and if the FAA is saying go ahead, then but the airlines are saying that only 40% of their planes have been tested. And
I
I
don't
mean,
know
it
that
is
that's
important to know how high off the ground you are, especially coming in or for landing or going out for takeoff. But perhaps you should stop being cheap and put the right altimeters in there, because if they're already cleared, that means that they're confident that there's the correct technology in there. I mean, we're talking a safety critical item. Just
but
the guy keeps it.
I mean, at the same time, I understand not wanting to take any chances because
Oh yeah,
people's
yeah.
lives
I'm
are
not
at
mad at
stake.
them at not taking
You
chances.
know,
I'm mad at the airlines for being cheap with a safety item,
and
just like I am
yeah,
with
and
these car companies being getting 0 and 1 stars in Europe because it's a cheap model. They don't want to bother to you got to pay for safety. No, you shouldn't have to pay for safety as a consumer.
right.
Okay, so we closed that one, and we got one more Elon tweet. Well, at least in this series. Boom. Falcon 9's first stage has landed on landing zone 1. It's an Elon retweet of a SpaceX tweet on January 13th. I saw this in person, and that is, I mean, not this one, but I saw them land in person. That is incredible every time. My favorite part isn't even the landing; it's the sonic boom, the multiple sonic booms right before it actually gets there. Because like you see it land, and then you hear the sound.
Right.
Okay. So Electrek talked about Tesla releases new full self-driving beta 10.9 software update and announces expansion in Canada. So we talked about the expansion to Canada already with the Elon tweets. And so let me tell you a little bit about FSD beta 10.9. It's very smooth. I retained the ability to use the Vision Auto Park. And this is the second or third time that I've had FSD turn off, or any of the self-driving assists turn off while we were rolling down the highway. Usually it wakes up after sentry mode and says, I'm not going to do anything, I quit. So this was new to me, where it quit on the road. But it's smooth. It doesn't make as many mistakes. It's not infallible. It definitely needs correcting. We were supposed to get a new map update with this, allegedly, but I'm still on 2020.48 for the maps. So what I'm hoping to do is find that, I get in the car one day and the maps have updated, and then maybe it's as smooth as these Californians keep saying, oh, it's wonderful, I didn't have to touch any of the controls for correction, blah, blah, blah. I'll take your word for it, but it's not happening on this coast.
Well, Elon did say any input is error, so
That
you
part.
shouldn't have to.
Yeah, so I'm actually
Shouldn't have to
helping
touch
more that they
anything.
help by giving input. Yeah. So that's FSD 10.9. I've got some videos coming out on it, and I like it. It continues to improve. It's not like what was the other one that I was complaining about that was actually a step back? I don't remember. But I can actually see differences in it, even if they're small. This one was small. All right, so then we got another one from Electrek. So EV charging scheme raises $6.2 million in funding and coming to 70 Taco Bell locations. which is good for me because when I'm on the road, Taco Bell is actually one of my favorite fast foods because everything they have can be made veggie. So I can get and it's cheap. That was the other part. It's cheap, so I can get some good cheap food
Okay.
while traveling on the road. I mean, literally, I can feed my big self for $4 or less, and to the point where I'm full. I can't take anymore. I'm full. And I mean, this would be cool. And their bathrooms are usually clean because the beans usually don't take effect till after. So,
After, huh?
well, it's true. I mean, people are like, oh, you went there? Like, yeah, their bathrooms are usually pretty clean. Yeah. So
Well, that's the thing. Most people probably assume that it's not, so they don't go.
that's the problem. Yeah, exactly.
So having less usage means it's going to be cleaner.
That's right. Maybe I just gave away the secret. So ChargeNet builds themselves as a software startup to bring EV fast chargers, on-site storage, and solar power, and a payment platform in a footprint that's designed to be dropped in. So this is actually really cool because this means that if it's a franchise, it's not corporate. They can just say, hey, yeah, give me the fueling station option. I want some people to be stuck here for 15 to 45 minutes. Hook us up, and they can. Yeah. Now all we need is that CCS adapter for the Teslas.
Yep.
Oh, the cover photo for today's show was me parked at a grocery store next to the Hyundai Ioniq 5. So let me.
Well, you know what? This rendering here, this is interesting.
Yeah.
It looks like a Cybertruck there in that
It
rendering.
does look like a Cybertruck there. It looks like they shrunk it though, because look how comparable in size it is to that Fiat 500e.
Yeah, it's not to scale, but hey, we might get two versions of the Cybertruck. Maybe a smaller
We
one.
could. What did they call it? The Wolverine? This could be the Wolverine. Could be. All right, so let's see if I can't share the photo for today's show without crashing the system. If we do crash the system, we'll be on the iPad for a minute. All right, so let's see here. I want this folder. Then I want that folder. And I want today's photo. There we go. So let's try to share my window.
So I'm going to finally start working on my Lego set soon.
There you go. The Cybertruck Lego set.
Cybertruck, yeah.
Yeah. Is it Lego or is it Lego's competitor?
Well, I bought it from Mattel. I don't know.
Okay.
I think it's Lego.
Oh, we were echoing there, Marcus.
Oh, it's Dyson.
Okay, so you've got Tachikoma there, our Model X P100D, and then you've got the Ioniq 5. Like I've said, I enjoy the looks of this car, and like I said, the charging recline feature where you get like the leg rest. It's just, I think that's awesome. It is so
I have
much
not
big,
seen one of those in person yet.
right? It's so much bigger than I thought.
And that's exactly what I was about to say. Like, I didn't think it was that big. Like, looking at it compared to your Model X,
Yeah,
that's bigger than I
it's
thought
huge.
it was going to be.
It's like Model Y sized, maybe a little bit smaller than the Model Y.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that one.
Yeah. And then, so now I need to see the Kia EV6. So we already know it's going to be the same size. It's going to be a little sleeker and prettier on the outside. It's going to have similar features. But that also makes me feel better about the Genesis, because the Genesis, I kept looking at the Genesis and thinking it was small. I mean, yes, it is smaller than my car, but it's not a small car at all. So that's fine, because Genesis is a luxury brand, and so generally luxury cars that are small don't do quite so well. And so since it's not small, it stands a chance. Eddie asks, are Taco Bell and KFC owned by the same company? If so, will KFC? The answer to that is yes, they are. And you have a good point. Maybe the non, the ones that aren't Taco Bell and KFC together, maybe they will also do it too. Yeah. They make good biscuits. Excited
Now
about
KFC has a vegan option. They have the
yeah, I need to go try that.
those nuggets that are
The vegan nuggets, the Beyond
the vegan
nuggets,
nuggets,
or
yeah.
the Impossible nuggets. I'm not sure which. But they did say that they don't guarantee that they'll be cooked vegan. So it's up to your local place if they want to dedicate a fryer to it. But some places already did that for the fries to make sure that the fries weren't cooked with the chicken. So as long as you aren't expecting it to be 100% guaranteed to be vegan, there's a chance it'll be prepared vegan. It's to the point where, like Burger King has the Impossible Burger, and you can get that with prepared vegan, and there they microwave it just to make sure there's no chance of cross contamination with the grill. And if you don't specify, then it might be cooked on the same grill, hopefully cleaned. Yeah.
But at least be vegetarian.
Right, it's at least vegetarian, and I'm a veggie, so it all works out. Kevin says, excited about the Ioniq 5, but Sandy Monroe peeked inside and did not seem happy with what he saw. Curious to learn more. Hope he can open it up for us. Yeah, so I'm curious about that as well. I saw him push that video out, but I was studying some stuff, and I'd like to go back and look at that. It sounds like he did similar like to what he did to the Nero and the one that came after that. Hyundai loaned him one. He could look at it for press vehicle and take off some panels and not take it apart. So hopefully we do get to see him tear one down, because from the outside and from the spec sheet, it looks like something that would be a good option.
I am curious about to see what he finds on a teardown.
Right.
Because I was a little surprised at his teardown of the Mach-E.
Yeah. Did the Genesis offer the power export that the Kia and the Ioniq did?
I don't know.
I mean, hopefully they're not thinking that just because you have a little bit more money that you don't want to lower yourself to exporting your power, but or whatever. But I think that's also a good feature right there, because like we talked about these people complaining about the. In fact, I think I've got an article on that. We talked about people complaining about how long you could stay in your car in frozen traffic, and this would be one less thing for them to point at, because not only did nobody need it, but also the guy with a full charge could help the guy with low charge with power export. Omar had a story about Dogecoin. Why don't you tell us about that?
So Tesla is now accepting Doge on Tesla's website. You can now actually purchase certain things with Doge, and I believe certain items they've actually limited to only Doge. So I think it's the belt buckle and something else. I forget. I saw like a couple things. I think the whistle, the cyber whistle, and the
cyber whistle and the belt buckle.
There you go. I got my cyber whistles already. I elected not to buy the belt buckle, but
and the quad.
You can buy them now and the quad. Okay, and
the quad you can only get with Doge. That's
so
a lot
far,
of Doge.
yeah. They went live day before yesterday for a couple. It sold out like less than I want to say 30 minutes. The guy said.
Oh, the quad sold out again anyway. Okay.
Yeah, but you only can get it. They're only showing the Doge though.
Sold out too.
So the belt buckle is 980 Doge. That's expensive. And the cyber quad it was already expensive to begin with. But the cyber quad for kids is 14135 Doge, and it's out of stock again. And
it's the cyber whistle that's out of stock. Okay,
it's out of stock
so you can still get a belt buckle
for 1,000 Doge.
Right.
I don't know if I like a Doge only option. That's
right.
I just find it interesting.
Sexy mode is Doge.
It's because Elon's like embracing Doge now. I find that very interesting.
Yeah, but
I mean, I guess he
was just complaining about the NFTs. Yeah, you can only buy it with Dogecoin. He was just complaining about the NFTs on Twitter. So it seems a little pot and kettle to me. Here's his Twitter. Here's him complaining about, this is annoying. Introducing NFT profile pictures. What's an NFT? What's it mean? Twitter is spending engineering resources on this BS while crypto scammers are throwing a spam bot party in every thread.
Well, I mean, NFTs are a little bit different.
They're related.
NFTs is slightly different.
Yeah. Greetings, everyone from Texas, on the road in Texas this week. Hello.
Hello from Texas.
You gonna visit the factory? I think that'd be fun. I can't wait till they start giving like interior tours.
Oh, that would be so cool. I'd love to do a tour.
Yes. All right, so let's talk about not just the Mach-E. The Mach-E is just the one that gave us the example here. When you get your new EV or any car, you should probably. I understand that the manuals are thick, but you should probably read the emergency and the catastrophe portions of the manual, so that, like in the case where I did the video on how to get out of your Tesla if you don't have 12-volt power. That
Wait a
might
minute,
be
Paul. Time
important.
out. How did they damage the battery pack by flatbed towing? Like
I'm getting to that.
you want to flatbed tow an EV?
You
Okay,
do.
go ahead. I'm
You
sorry.
do. So you want to look at in your manual about the proper way to tow your vehicle, for instance, how to pick it up to change the tire, especially on most of these new cars don't have spare tires, and they don't have run flats either. So you want to make sure that they're picking your car up by the right spot. So we saw earlier in the show that the jack points on the Model Y are different if you have the structural pack, but apparently not different enough to actually include a new picture. But different enough that they made sure to tell you to look in a different spot in the manual. So you want to read the catastrophe and emergency portions of your manual to make sure that you understand these things. So this Mach-E owner let this tow driver pick the car up and put it on the rollback. But what happened was they grabbed into the battery rather than grabbing into, well, actually the battery mounts rather than grabbing into the winch points. So this set the owner back somebody, probably the tow owner's insurance, $28,000 repair bill on top of whatever was already wrong with this Mach-E that caused it to need to be towed in the first place. It pulled a Tesla, stop now, pull over immediately. We don't know what's wrong, or we don't want to tell you what's wrong. Bring me to the dealership. And so they did call the provider, but this person didn't watch the person hook up the car. Well, if they did, they would have seen, hey, don't hook up there. I would, hey, don't touch that. Here we've got a picture of the damage done. This is the battery mounts, the battery rail they called it. You can see where he clawed into it and broke that piece right there, and pulling the car up onto the flatbed. Here is a map of just like we saw on the Model Y, of where you can pick up your Mach-E. You can pick it up here if you need to pick it up off the ground. Don't put any hooks here. Don't jack or winch on the battery guard rail, which is this blue thing, which is exactly what the guy did. He winched it on the battery rail. There's no approved method to pick it up from the rear, so you need to get it spun around somehow. So you can grab it from these green circles are the approved points to haul the Mach-E from. So I wonder what happens if you crash into some trees. There's no approved way to pull it
I don't
back.
like the fact that there's no
same.
rear points at all. Like,
Yeah, because you don't want to go winching on the suspension because that could mess up the suspension if it's not built for that. So the only thing I would think to do as an owner or a tow driver would be, if that tow bar is attached, maybe back it up with the tow bar enough that I could then reach the winch points.
wow.
That's a bad. I mean, it just depends on the situation where they probably have to, get it from the back or somehow.
Right, and
yeah, if the front's not accessible and they have to grab it from the back, there's no. That's terrible.
Right, and if they're anything like me, their tow bar isn't actually attached until they're towing something, because I don't like the way my car looks with the empty tow bar just hanging out the back. And this appears to be the same style that Tesla uses. This is the European one. See how it's kind of curved and has that ball on it right there? The American style would be more straight. It would have the box for you to put your own receiver into, or your own hitch into that receiver. That's, like I said, so you want to at least flip through your manual while you wait for the tow truck to arrive, so you can make sure that, one, it's the right type of tow truck, and two, that they don't damage your car, because this is going to be a fight to get the money back from that company's insurance. And unless they are willing to do the right thing, which a lot of insurance companies would rather fight it in court to see if they can get away with it. Trust me, I know this firsthand. Not from the damage, but from the insurance companies not want to do the right thing.
But you know what that's going to do? That's just going to make people already. Because out here, I know certain people. You tell them you got a Tesla or whatever, they
Yeah.
go, well, we can't, we can't help
We
you.
can't help you there. But it's
A lot
not
of people be
just
scared.
electric cars. This is every car today. Like
That's true.
yeah. But we saw this with one of the groups that we're all in. The guy brought in just a regular new gas car, and it was they're like, oh, we don't want to do the tire on that car. It's too new. It's like, here's the book. You want to read it? Or here's the website. You can get your shop manual. It's not hard. It's a tire. You're a tire shop. Come on now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm around Houston. So yeah, I tried to make it out there, but I wasn't able to make it to Giga Austin. All right, Timothy, that's awesome. Next best thing, I was able to go to a Buc-ee's and cult following because it's awesome barbecue. Yeah.
Buc-ee's is awesome.
Yeah.
I actually stopped at Buc-ee's when I went to Florida. They have a new Buc-ee's down in Florida. And
I'll have to visit that one or the one in South Carolina.
Yeah, they were pretty cool.
Yeah. Eddie says overall it's not a good look for EVs. Yeah, exactly. And we're seeing this time and again with GM, Ford, and Tesla. It's just simple mistakes being made that they could have been avoided, and it's not the manufacturer's fault because the manufacturer would say, well, they already have said, well, don't pick it up there. They've got pictures.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Yeah. I mean, they can't make it any more clear other than putting a sticker on it. And I'm sure if there was a sticker there that said, don't touch this, it might get ignored. Or it might be covered in salt. Salt and mud. So, just a PSA. And while I'm on this side of my tabs, Car and Driver took their 2019 Model 3 long range and a Hyundai Sonata, and they took them out for a little test drive to see how long they would run with just the heater. They pointed out in their article that their Model 3 doesn't have the heat pump, so these numbers are actually very pessimistic. So what they did was they set the cars out and left them running with the temperature set to 65 degrees, which is plenty warm if you're wearing a winter coat, which you would have available if this scenario happened to you, where you get stuck in traffic for 20 plus hours. The Sonata won't let you turn off the running lights while it's running, so you can see that they taped up all of the daytime running lights so that way the neighbors and the people who go around pulling handles at night wouldn't realize that this car was not just open, but running, available to be stolen. So they taped up all the lights so it was less conspicuous. And on the Model 3, that's not a problem. You just put it in camp mode and lock the doors, and it'll stay locked. And
or you just put it inside the garage and let it run inside that garage.
You can do that with the Tesla, but you
With
can't
the
do
Tesla,
that with the Sonata.
like I say, with the Model 3, it's not a problem because you just put it inside the garage or put it in camp mode, either or.
Yeah, but if he did that with the Sonata, he would
can't
end
do that
up
with the
murdering his family.
You definitely can't.
Not that murdering your family is funny. It's just that the concept is like you said, you got these different options here.
I'm just saying that it's another option that you have with the Tesla that you don't with the Sonata.
Exactly. And they waited for a nice cold day. You can see the snow on the ground. You see the snow on the hood. All right, so let's see. He used Teslafy like I used to track the vehicle. Their Model 3 has an 80.5 kilowatt hour pack and has 40,000 miles on it and 8% of degradation. So on a newer car, it would do better because of the heat pump and the fresh battery.
Mm-hmm.
So they started with 98% charge, didn't precondition the battery because they wanted to assume that you started your trip home from work and bam, got stuck. So they let the cabins cool down to 47 degrees before they started the test, opened the windows, and 37 hours later, they had 17% battery remaining on the Model 3. So if you're going to be stuck for more than 20 hours, you've got an additional 17 and still have 17% remaining. And as us members of Club Static know, Club Static, again, is when you get down to just the static, running on fumes is the equivalent on a fossil car. 17% is plenty. So that gave them 50 more miles. And in my case, 50 miles would get me to, I think, about 8 different Supercharger locations, which is important because the whole argument of what started all this was that stop on 995. And on 995...
I could get to at least 4.
Yeah, there's at least you could get to at least 4 easily, but like I said, there's 8 around that spot where because it's also around my spot where you could reach with 17% battery and make it there comfortably. They lost 2.2% per hour. And the reason I brought this particular article up over all the other people doing it and my own story that I told you guys about us car camping before camp mode was a thing is because nobody else really compared it to a gas car like this. So now let's move on to the gas car. All right, so they think that they could get up to, in theory, 45.1 hours on the Model 3. Wait.
And that's the one without the heat pump. Now, mind you,
without the heat pump, yeah.
The heat pump, it makes it like 3 times more efficient. So in theory, you'd be using basically a third of the power that you were using in this scenario.
Exactly. And then they moved over to the Sonata. They stopped the test after 24 hours. And, I mean, for good reason. It's terrible for the environment to do this. But they found that it consumed less than half a tank of fuel to do this test. The average consumption idling worked out to 0.3 gallons of gas per hour. Excuse me. Or a maximum idle time of 51.8 hours, or just over 2 days, based on the 15.9 gallon tank. But they understand that most people run around with the light on, and so they go further into their math, and they point out that you probably would have a better time in the Tesla because most people start near full. So the Model 3 consumed 1.6 kilowatt hours per hour, and the Sonata used more than 6 times that energy at 10.3 kilowatt hours per hour. The way they got this is by converting the energy in a gallon of gasoline to kilowatt hours. And the Tesla's able to run just the HVAC system instead of the whole engine, and the Sonata has to keep the whole 290 horsepower Turbo 4 running at idle. They're saying, they chose 65 instead of 70 because, if you're stuck, you're gonna turn it down. And where's the part where they talked about the heat pump? In theory, the Sonata could idle 7 more hours, but in the real world, it would be largely dependent on which vehicle started out with more energy in its tank. And EVs are more likely to be plugged in at night and kept at a higher state of charge than gas-powered vehicles, which may only be filled up once the tank is mostly depleted. They put a question mark because there are some weirdos out there that refill at 3/4 of a tank, but most people fill up at 1/4 a tank, half a tank, or when the light goes on. Or I know my car, and they fill up 3 days after the light comes on. They are the patron members of Club Static. Once they get an EV.
I used to fill up at half a tank, but if I was on a road trip, though, anybody on a road trip is going to fill up all the way before they take off for a road trip.
Right,
so,
and then on top of that, once they are on the road trip, they're gonna fill up at a lower, because they don't want to be stopping all the time. They'll stop at a 1/4 tank or when the light comes on.
Yeah, for me, it was always
unless
like
they're crossing Texas.
I would use up.
You always have a tank.
Half a tank. That's when I would fill up. Even on a road trip, when I had a gas car, it was half a tank.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
Yeah. Either way, based on our results, EVs aren't necessarily much worse off in a cold weather disaster scenario. Then there's the other part of it: is if you know there's a disaster coming up, gas or electric, you're probably going to go and take care of it. But again, on the EV, it's as simple as going. Whereas on the gas car, now you got to go fight the hordes to wait in line to go fill up.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So Kevin says we start at full, but for road trips like on the interstate where people were stuck, we'd ride the line to charge faster. Just don't do that in extreme weather. Exactly. Those were my 3 most recent entries into Club Static.
Yes. So in the EV, I don't, I start off with full at the beginning of the road trip, but during the trip, I never charge it all the way up anymore. And at that point, it's just, because it charges faster at a lower state of charge, you generally keep your battery at a lower state of charge.
Yep. The way I usually do it is I get enough to get to the next 2 stations if I'm not sure, like if it's a route that I'm not familiar with. But if I'm familiar and I look ahead and I see that there's no maintenance issues, because you can look on the screen and it'll tell you, hey, this many are down or it's super full. I also know if I'm traveling on a holiday weekend or any other, hey, there's a lot of cars on the road today. So I'll do enough if I'm comfortable just to get to the next one, and a little bit of driving around if I need to go find a third-party site. Yeah, Club Vapor, riding on fumes. They need to face it. Overall, EVs are superior in this aspect. Exactly. And that was the other reason I picked them is not just they compared it to a gas car, but this is, what did I say, Car and Driver? Car and Driver. So they're a car magazine. So then they made this beautiful table for us. So they did the start date, the start time, temperature. So this is in 26-degree weather. So it wasn't exactly an easy test. They could have been colder, but they could have also done closer to freezing if they wanted to. The starting fuel, 98% on the Tesla, and 0.127 gallons fuel used before starting. 65 auto camp mode, and then again on the Sonata they had to do some tricks to keep it running because after half an hour or an hour it'll turn off the engine because it thinks that somebody's doing something nefarious. Where, as we talked about, you don't want the car in the garage just running, so something like that. They did this the gas car the day before. They did the test the day after. Energy added was 57.28 kilowatt hours, and the gas added was 7.781 gallons. I think they had to take it to the gas station to get that precision. I mean, you couldn't. Who has tools that precise on their little red jugs?
You don't.
Idle time in hours was 36.6 on the Tesla and 24.5 on the Sonata. Average consumption of 2.2% per hour versus 0.3 gallons per hour.
Well, so here's one thing that's interesting about this test. They clearly did them at like if you look, the low temp was lower for the Tesla.
Yeah.
So the average temp was actually lower on the Tesla. But yet they said that the start date was at the same time, so that
they were 2 different days. Oh, yeah, they were.
So so that's that's where I'm confused.
The Tesla started 38 minutes earlier, but the Tesla ran longer though. Remember, it ran over one day, and the Sonata ran.
But that's what it was because it ran longer.
Yeah, so the next day it got colder
the next day.
Yeah.
But I just find that interesting. Like, I wonder if
I guess they were expecting the Hyundai to be more thirsty because they waited a whole 30 minutes before they started the gas car up. Well, maybe they were in the Tesla getting numbers and they didn't want to smell the fumes.
Or maybe it's because they had to take the Hyundai to the gas station and fill it up.
Could be that, and waiting for it to cool back down. Oh, it could be. Let's see if we can't get the actual what do you call?
But it's interesting that they're doing this test with a 4-cylinder, small car. So they're comparing it, they're comparing a similar sized car.
No, I think you missed the point, James. He said, missed the point. What do I do with the EV that has zero charge? That was what the article was purporting to talk about, but we haven't found any EVs riding out in the snow with no charge.
Right, like who drives around in cold weather?
Mr. Boner from the New York Times trying to make it look like the Tesla ran out of charge in 2012. That's who. He was circling the Supercharger because even though he knew it wasn't going to run out, he didn't want to have to get a tow. He wanted to be able to push it to the Supercharger.
Mm-hmm.
Broder, not Boner. Broder. Okay, so these are like I don't know why I even bothered. The MSN comments are always just trash. It's like totally uneducated for the most part. I mean, you'll find a nugget in there, but they're usually just shooting from the hip, talking about stuff they don't know what they're talking about. What I was actually trying to do was not find the comments. I wanted to find the source article before they syndicated it to see if it had different pictures or something. Maybe if I just click their logo. Oh, that didn't do the trick. Oh well. Yeah, but like we said,
But the point is, if the people were stranded for 20 hours in an EV, they're not all going to die. They're going to be okay.
Yeah, and we saw that from actual Tesla owners, actual EV owners stuck both in the East Coast traffic jam and West Coast traffic jam. And I'm sure we're going to get some reports out of Canada for the one that happened up there during their snow just the other day. Theirs was shut down for at least 12 hours. But again, 12 hours is less than 20, and both of the 20s ended up just fine. So let's go into some much more exciting news than debunking num-nums. Over in Auckland at the port, we've seen hundreds of Teslas reported, and that's hinting at even more growth in New Zealand. So the theory is that these cars just landed and they are now waiting for transport to their new owners, which is exciting, especially if you are in Oz and waiting on a Tesla that you ordered months ago. Congratulations.
Nice.
Yeah.
The folks down under will be getting their cars.
You might see yours in this line. It's going to be tough to tell, though, because there's only 5 colors. That will change soon. Berlin has a new paint shop, and they won't say that Austin does, but it's got to. There's no reason to have 2 brand new factories and have one of them with an old paint shop. Or old style paint shop.
Well,
I mean, there's plenty of reasons to do it, but for Tesla to do it.
Well, here's the thing. They plan on making a Cybertruck out of Texas, and
you don't need any paint for that.
Cybertruck is not going to have any paint, so they may not necessarily do an upgraded paint shop in a place where they're going to be making vehicles that don't need paint.
So you could move the Fremont paint shop to Texas and then upgrade the Fremont paint shop. I don't see them doing that either, though. It would save a lot of money. All right, so Sawyer is pointing out news. Tesla Japan to hold a special test drive and mobile service day on January 29th to celebrate the Kochi Prefecture's first Tesla Supercharger opening. Congratulations. It is awesome to have a Supercharger in your area because it just totally changes the way you run your errands and do your long road trips, even if you have to pay for it. Some of us have been grandfathered into unlimited supercharging for the life of the ownership of the car.
Yeah, I miss that about my old car.
Yeah, but it's easy enough to give up for all the stuff you got in return.
Oh, hey, can I just found out something that kind of made it was my fault. I lost some mileage, free mileage that I had, from referral people that used my, and I ain't know it. I forgot that he said at some point it was going to expire. It expired on me. I lost like 2,000 miles.
Oh my goodness. You could have been on a road trip.
You just let that go to waste?
I forgot. I was busy. I didn't know about it. So I just told me.
So, PSA, check your Tesla account and see if you have any free miles, if you've referred anybody to the program or did anything that actually earned you free miles. And make sure what that expiration date is. Initially, when this whole pandemic situation started, they extended it for a little bit, but they hadn't gone through and extended it again. So you might have somewhere you want to go that needs supercharging, and it's free now and it'll cost you later. So take a look, especially if it's something you have to do, but there's no time limit on it. A one-day limited test drive of Model 3 held at Kochi Supercharger location. There it is. So you put your name in. There you go. I didn't really do this for the sales part of it. I did it because they had a new supercharger. As they call me, Mr. Supercharger on some of the other shows. So this is what we're talking about. How about we talk about it when he makes a statement from Japan rather than whether he's there or not. Not seeing up-to-date figures on Japan. Same sales there continues to this point because Tesla vehicles are somewhat large for parking spaces in the country. Maybe. And if that's the case, then the Model Next will be the way to go. Because it's supposed to be a world car. Giga Tokyo is Cyberpunk factory. I don't see that happening because land is expensive in Tokyo. All right, so we talked about the range on the Model Y. Sorry, Model Y? Model 3 with the Ryzen. I was hoping this one was the one that told us what happened as far as the actual, on the one that went up, but it didn't have it either. So here's some news I did not expect. So the boys over at Nikola, and Proterra. Proterra is they make a lot of EV buses, among other things. They make trucks and stuff too, but they mostly make buses. They agreed to a long-term battery supply for zero-emission Class 8 semi-trucks. So Nikola continues to buy components from other people.
Batteries?
Say again?
Who's actually supplying the batteries?
Proterra.
Proterra's supplying the batteries to Nikola?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know who Proterra gets theirs from, but obviously these are going to be completed packs. And which is good because Nikola was buying hydrogen components from somebody else allegedly, and then they ran into their troubles. And so it's good to see EV trucks.
Nikola's whole business model was to outsource everything.
Everything, just like Tesla tried to do and realized they couldn't. So then they started to make everything in house.
So their trucks are going to be more expensive because they're outsourcing everything.
Exactly, because you could get a Proterra truck, you could get a Freightliner truck, you could get a Tesla truck, and they're outsourcing a lot less, and so, as you said, they should be cheaper unless they're going for a higher profit margin. But I was just happy to see that Nikola took a step in the right direction. It's a press release. You can read it if you want. I'll pop it in the chat.
Well, they're under new leadership now, so they may be actually trying to
actually be a business.
They're trying to do the right thing to try to, have some level of success, which is good.
Yeah. Let's see here. I'd like to know what percentage of Teslas built are right-handed. I am also curious of that. I think the only way we'd find out would be to actually compare the registration data in the right-hand drive countries versus what they say they sold overall.
Yeah, I don't think they break out their numbers and report them.
They don't like to
that way.
Not by region, not by model. They do it by type. Here's the Model 3 and Model Y for the year. Here's the Model 3 and Model S and Model X for the quarter. For the whole world. That's all you get.
Right.
They're not trying to be clear. Part of it is because in the beginning they had such a bad experience with the stock market trying to pick apart their numbers and looking at registration data and saying, oh yeah, see, they didn't sell so many in California this quarter, and so it means they're failing, blah, blah, blah. But really what it was...
That means the demand is down.
Right. And so that quarter was not a California quarter. It was a put them on the boats, ship them overseas quarter. They're still building selling everyone they build. So
I remember they tried that with the Model 3s. They said, oh no, they have no demand in China. See, they're shipping them all over to Europe.
Right, and then those cars they shipped to Europe landed at the exact same time as the ones that kicked out the factory door the last day of the quarter, right outside the China factory. And then the next morning we see that long line wrapped all the way around the DMV.
Right. All the people picking up their cars.
Yep. I bet the DMV hates the waves, or whatever they call their DMV, because it's like you got nothing from Tesla all for 3 months, and then all of a sudden,
bam!
What the heck? Yes.
You got lines for miles.
Exactly. So Elon and us, but mostly us reporting what Elon said, warned you about the price of FSD going up, and well, they followed through, and FSD is now $12,000 if you try to buy it, either from your app or when you build your car. Those of you who were watching when I was doing the Model X, it was $12,000 for FSD. But Marcus and I talked. We were curious what would happen to the monthly subscription, and according to Electrek, and I'm sure when Marcus gets his next bill, the subscription didn't go up yet. So Elon.
This tells me that the FSD beta will probably be the features for that are probably going to roll out to wide release somewhat soon. Yeah. So they increased the price ahead of time to do that. And Elon tweeted that once additional features did roll out, they were going to increase the monthly subscription as well. So they didn't increase it yet. But they are going to increase it as soon as the features are available.
Exactly. Yeah. And he warned us about that as well. So currently, if you had enhanced autopilot, if you had basically a car that shipped during a very narrow range of time, you had most of the FSD features, but not all of them. And so for those cars currently, for $99 a month, you can have the full FSD package for the beta program, or if you I think that's all you get, because everything else the car does that's not in the beta program is already on these cars here. So I don't see anybody paying $99 per month unless they want the car to turn at corners and stuff. But then if you had the free autopilot or no autopilot, It was $199 a month for you. It still is.
It still
But
is as of right now. It still is
right.
$199.
And so what Elon is warning is that one day that's going to go up. It's probably going to be closer to when you push the button, you get enrolled into the beta, or there is no vetting at all. It's just like, hey, if you've got the car, here's autopilot if you want it. Here, give us some money, or FSD, because autopilot basic is free now. It'll stay in the lines and it won't run into the car in front of you.
It's basically enhanced adaptive cruise control and lane departure. It's
Exactly.
basically what it is.
But you get the Tesla lane keep rather than the bouncing.
Instead of
lanes that
bouncing back
everybody
and
else
forth,
has.
you actually stay centered. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, look here. What about what? I think I missed it. Probably. What they gonna do about the people that don't make the safety score? Like your safety score is out the window.
Nothing. They just don't get into the beta program.
Right. And if you're paying for it, well, then you get a
If
whole
you're
lot
paying
nothing
for
for your money.
FSD, you just get the same that everybody else gets for the wide release.
Yeah. Okay. And if you get kicked out, eventually they bring you back in. But apparently the resets don't happen every version, so that's always fun. Elon says it'll go up on general release, is what he said in the future. So you got your 199 until it's no longer. It probably still will be called beta because regular basic free auto steer is called beta still too, but general release is not yet. Whereas that is, you don't even have to have the car for an hour before you get that. You just have to drive long enough that your cameras get adjusted, and then you can park and turn on auto steer. So good catch there, Kevin. All right, so we've been talking about these greedy power companies. And a Florida power company threatened by homeowners switching to Rooftop Solar delivered a bill to make it less affordable. The lawmakers submitted it almost word for word. And then this is an investigative report here. Sorry. Come on now, scan. My sugar. There we go. Sugar measuring device there is lost signal.
Well, a lot of the lawmakers don't even read the stuff that's in those bills. So they just listen to whoever's chirping in their ear and say, "Oh, okay, yeah, this sounds good."
Right, and then this is the same place that did the Protect the Sunshine Act, and what they were protecting was you from using the sunlight. So they're not done trying. Just like at my place, where we beat them on their garbage, and they resubmitted it word for word, exactly like it was again, thinking we wouldn't notice. So this is from The Guardian, and here's a link to the full article.
And what's crazy about Florida is that's one of the places that gets a ton of sun.
Exactly.
The closer you are to the equator, the more sun you're going to get, and they get a lot of sunlight. They
do. And so they continue on the tweet before they go into the article. The 2 days after the power company, after which one are they? Yeah, 2 days after the power company emailed the representative the bill, the parent company sent $10,000 to her campaign. Don't you usually get the money first? Unless maybe they got some assurances that she would push it through and then they paid her for it, which is still, that's dirty politics all the way through and through. The bill's House sponsor, this guy, also got $10,000 from an industry political committee. The lawmakers and donors say the contributions aren't related to the bill. Bull.
It's directly tied to the bill.
Yes.
Just as we promised, here's your $10,000.
Right.
Thanks for pushing that through.
Exactly.
Right.
The bill is just Florida Power and Light's latest attempt to hobble Rooftop Solar. It backed a related failed ballot amendment in 2016. That's the one I was talking about, the Protect the Sunshine garbage. And it sent millions to groups with untraceable donors to maintain Republicans' hold in the state Senate. And then they have a link to the Orlando Sentinel's report on that as well. So it's big when you get news reports referencing other people's news reports, because they just did the work and they were just tired of seeing this stuff. So Rooftop Solar, while critical to fighting climate change, is a threat to the traditional utility business model. Electric companies make money off the things they build. They don't make money off of solar power generated from rooftops, which That's your problem right there. You should be able to take my free power and sell it at profit. I mean, right now, my agreement in South Carolina is that I think until this year or 3 years from now, they have locked in my rate at basically zero profit or even a slight loss. But that contract's going to have an end date. They don't have to renew it. So, yeah, you agreed to do this. Be a big boy. Fulfill your agreements. Don't try and, get me taxed per panel. And then in 5 years, just, set a rate that I want to keep giving you power. Because if you try and steal my power, I'll cut it off. I'll put a battery on it. But
I'm surprised that power companies haven't tried to just undercut other solar companies and installers and just, start getting their own panels and installing themselves and selling solar to their customers themselves. And then
they're kind of doing that, but
and they could do contracts that are advantageous to them.
Yeah, they're kind of doing that, but they're just putting them in an empty field instead of putting it on your roof.
Well, no, but I mean, for rooftop solar, they could do that for rooftop solar.
There's an opportunity for them.
They could sell that to their customers, to their consumers, and then that way, if somebody's likely to get solar anyway, and then they're already getting an electric bill from the power company anyway for being hooked up to the grid and everything else. Well, you know what? If you make it really super simple and easy, you only have one bill that you're getting from one company, and only one company to go to with, if there's any issues or whatever. And you're making the argument that it's much easier, more convenient. And if the price is competitive, they could write these contracts in such a way that could be advantageous to themselves. All I have to do is really just think outside the box instead of just trying to stop people from doing what they want to do anyway.
Right, and it would cost them so much less in maintenance and fuel purchases, and
it would shore up their grid and make their grid a little stronger because then you have all these spots all over that, and that you basically are controlling that this energy flow that's coming into your grid.
Yeah, but all the people with the old think they can't see changing anything. Oh no, we can't change, not even a little bit. We can't change anything.
And if they did it right, they could basically make microgrids using people's rooftops for the real estate for their solar, right? And then with the microgrids, you can then make your grid so much more robust and so much more, protected against natural disasters and other.
And then they can still charge for the services of the microgrid, and it would cost them less because they're still the administrator. They still own the equipment, and they're not sending power over long distances through these massive transformers, etc.
Right, and they basically get paid to upgrade their grid.
Mm-hmm. But they can't be bothered. It's a shame. So let's go ahead and give them hearts for all this stuff. There we go. And so we talked about this when I was going through it in South Carolina. This is before I started the chats, but we talked about it on other shows. And then we talked about it recently with California and Elon and Tesla both coming out against the same crap in Florida, in California, where they're trying to push people to batteries, but really what they're really trying to do is make money per panel, per person. Because even, like I've said, even the affluent folks who can afford the batteries, it might not be cost effective for them to put the batteries in, and so this little tax still might be less cost to them than to put in the appropriate amount of batteries. So it's all stick and no carrot, at least in California. And then the other places like South Carolina, Florida, and that place that's afraid that the solar panels actually eat the sun. That place, they're just blocking it all together, or trying to, which is just inane, frustrating. Yes. So let's see what's next to cheer me up. I had that moon photo. Why do I have this? Oh, I know why I have this. I thought it was an advertisement at first. It kind of is, but it wasn't exactly that. So I find that they have a lot of stuff tagged to stuff I'm looking at, and so that's why I thought, I was like, well, why did I pick the ad? The news here is that Unplugged Performance is partnered with Consegue, advanced manufacturing, and they now have a partnership for getting you your Tesla mods, which I think is pretty cool because this is a big name in the auto world for performance.
That's
Because
cool.
they make hypercars.
Right.
The high efficiency chunk spoiler is super clean in person.
I got a spoiler coming from them. It's gonna be pretty nice.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
Yeah, help me with
So
that.
Everyone only give me 250 for the unplugged plaid. Yes, it does. Can we see a performance Model Y with that new spoiler, please? And the teabag tweet. Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool because seeing big names partner is always fun. And then this one is interesting. Mary led. Preface Mary led. GM's Chevy Bolt plant gets a $1.3 billion tax rebate to ramp EV production. This is the plant that built both of my Chevy Volts with a V, as in Victor, my plug-in hybrids, and now it builds, or it had built and will build Chevy Bolts, allegedly. It's not making them right now because they sold 23 of them last quarter.
Well, they didn't have any batteries because of the big, huge recall.
Yes. But the recall cost $1.3 billion.
So that's where they get the rebate from. They wrote off the cost of the recall.
No, this is fresh money from the government.
Well, how did? Interesting.
Yeah. So Orion Township approved GM's request for a tax rebate on its proposed $1.3 billion investment to expand the Orion plant. And
Corporate welfare, and people complain about Tesla's loan that they got from the government like
that they paid back with
8 years
interest.
ago that they paid back. Yeah.
So I understand where Elon's coming from, where he doesn't want any subsidies, but I still maintain that they should start with the fossil fuel subsidies. But this one looks bad, and this one goes exactly to what he's saying. Oh, they lost $1.3 million in car, or $1 billion in car fires. Oh, and they got a $1.3 billion tax break, rebate, whatever, refund. I mean, no matter how you slice it, it doesn't look good.
They spent 1.3 on their plant upgrades to the assembly plant.
They said they did. GM already has $50 billion in tax abatement or subsidies. Why do these states allow this nonsense? It's only for 1181 workers. It's extremely low workforce. They're leading in this aspect. Correction, every aspect. Mary led. Why do people always do this crap? Flag is inappropriate. Spam.
Well, that's the only way they can try to lead the way in, EVs somehow.
Yeah. When you're leading in EVs, tax breaks help to keep the non-producing plants running. They're so ahead of others that when they look behind them, they don't see anyone. One Homer and 25 bolts in 3 months.
With their 26 EVs built in a whole quarter.
Yeah, 26. Is the Hummer built out of that plant even? I don't think it is it?
No, remember they built that one-off Hummer. The Hummer's not even really being produced right now.
That too.
It was like a one-off.
Right, so, it is built in that factory. Okay. Hamtramck. Yeah, both of my Volts, when you open the driver's door, there's a little mitten with a star on it showing where they built it and, the union name and all that. They were very proud of it. I mean, they were solid cars. But the first one had everything go wrong in front of the firewall, and the second one had everything go wrong behind the firewall. So if I combined the two cars, I'd have one perfect one that never needed service. And then the other Omar, like I said, Nikki had her tear down to those folks. The other Omar, his group at Holmar's blog, had a takedown as well. They focused more on they had all the facts right, but then they focused in on the conspiracy theory aspect that all these other automakers are asking this company to do this. I think what it is the guys getting feeling the burn, feeling the threat, realizing that these other companies could buy autopilot from Tesla as a package, put it in their cars, and then he's out of business. So I think this was just him by himself, well, him and his group by themselves, not Mazda, not GM, not BMW saying, hey, here's some money to go fight Tesla on this platform, because I don't think they care, because their business is, we bought a self-driving module, stuck it in the hole, the car's driving itself, we're good to go. I don't think they care who builds it, as long as it the car meets their cost of goods estimate, and they can make their profit. So that's the only thing I disagree with this particular Omar on, is that I don't think that the other car makers, other than by giving this company money as a customer, I don't think that they are asking him to go and show his butt in public like this, personally. But yeah, there's a link to the article. And what do y'all think about that? I know we talked about it already. The conspiracy theory aspect of it. Like, do you think there's any chance that the other automakers are actually asking him for this value-added service, or even if he's giving it for free?
I don't know about that.
Yeah. Personally, I think that he just sees his threat to his income, and he's going after Elon and crew. Because if they realize they could, like we said, 4.8 million miles per crash, and if Tesla gives them a good enough price, what do they care? Like just like we saw with the supercharging, if you don't have a customer pulling up and seeing a big red Tesla for a couple minutes, and the price is right, and they can use the existing ports, they'll buy it. But the problem is, they see the Tesla, they have to change ports, and there's still a little bit of pride in there. They don't want to help their competitor, but they'll all join up if everything is right on the money. Everybody's got a price in the corporate world. All right, so then we've got this one here. SpaceX wins $102 million Air Force contract to demonstrate technologies for point-to-point space transport. And then that leads to an article in Space News. And from my understanding of this, it's not really taking the Starship point to point like we would use for human transport, like we would have, from, like Elon told us about, 15 minutes to 50 minutes anywhere in the world. In this case, it sounds more like they would fly over and drop a pod from the rocket, and that pod would land on the battlefield, and there you would have your resupply of, trucks and batteries, solar panels, supplies, that sort of thing. It's an interesting concept, and even if they don't go through with it, they now have this much money to work their R&D for Starship to do other stuff. And typically, SpaceX does use this money. I mean, they do use it for what they're supposed to. It's a government contract, but they typically actually come out with stuff for most of these R&D projects that the government does give them money to. So they had one for the refueling. They had another for a particular type of satellite deployment, and another for allowing them to put the satellites in vertically instead of horizontally, because some of the satellites that the government needed to go up, they can't be laid down on their side before they get to space. So
stupid gravity.
Well, it's for the mission for these satellites, they didn't want to have to contend with oh, by the way, we need to test for this 3 months while it's being integrated into the rocket, and waiting for fuel and a space on the pad. We need to be able to contend that not only can it lay down, but then we can put it back up without having it go out of spec. And so they just, hey, it needs to always stay like this, and they deal with it. And so now that SpaceX got that money, they can actually compete for those same projects, which is good, because the more competition for these contracts, the lower the price can be, and the lower the price can be, the less it costs us, the taxpayers. Because they're going to do this regardless, so I'd much rather them do it cheaply than have golden toilet seats on my dime. I don't have a golden toilet seat.
Yeah, right now I don't think anybody's competing with SpaceX right now on price. So
No, not at all. Well, maybe in like these very specialized sort of situations. Let's see here. So then I got this one I thought was really cool, just because I'm into this sort of thing. Even though I've never actually gone RV camping, I'm just really into the idea of a EV camper. And so Winnebago showed off a concept of a EV camper, and this Ford Transit that they converted, it gets about 150, 180 miles of range. Let's take a look.
They just had to put those lights on underneath, huh?
Right, yeah. So I'm having a rave out in the middle of the woods. My family and friends and random people we met on the trail. Now, if they were like white lights, like so you could actually see and not step in a puddle, that would be cool.
Right.
All right, so it's got a 86 kilowatt hour battery, which is good for 125 miles of range. Charge time of 45 minutes at a DC fast charger. That's not too bad. That's what can be like 90 kilowatts, because we had an 85. You had an 85 kilowatt hour battery, and it charged in 45 minutes at the supercharger, right? When it was
Yeah, but
not
I'm
capped.
curious. I'm very curious if it's, if it can charge up to, like, let's say 125 kilowatts or something, but if that includes the taper time for it to taper
Oh, it
off,
might. It might. It
you
might.
know,
Yeah.
because as the battery gets full, it slows down.
Exactly. And so Winnebago already had a response to all these people that a lot of the folks that I saw complaining it doesn't go too far, blah blah blah. It's a house on wheels. They said that most of their customers, gas or otherwise, actually prefer to keep their drives to 200 miles or less, because when you're manually driving a house in the wind and the weather, it's kind of taxing. And then you want to be able to get where you're going and set up and be ready before it's time to sleep. So they might not do all that much traveling. 54% though, so I imagine they probably still have some of those same iron bladders. Yeah, I don't stop for anything, even to go to the restroom. Let's just go. So I'm wondering what range would cover a larger percentage of these people. Maybe 70%.
Yeah, if they could get the range up to like maybe 200 miles, I think they'd do a lot better.
Yeah.
Because
For
a lot of the times people will go RVing in places that are like mountainous and other stuff where there's cold weather, and that's going
yeah,
to
that part.
affect your range. So
Yeah.
I think they would do a lot better if they had 200, 250 miles of range, something like that.
Right. But it's not a terrible drop. 125 from what Ford claims for this bare van with the low roof. 126 miles for the cargo van. But the passenger one can do 170 miles. So you did lose a little bit there. Assuming the EV RV concept falls somewhere in between the two in terms of weight and loads, that 125 seems easily achievable. Yeah, I agree. But then we see Lightning motors. They're willing to put a bigger battery in there, and they can get you some range. But Lightning motors aren't cheap. They'll cost you for the conversion. They seem
Therein
excited.
lies the
That's good.
problem: the cost of batteries.
Yes, especially batteries for a large non-aerodynamic vehicle.
Right.
It's a house, a rolling house. They list a number of high-end features such as kitchen appliances, modern marine-grade refrigerator, slide-out induction cooktop. That's important right there because induction cooktops, the one, you're not wasting any fossil fuels, so you're not making any CO2. But it's not that same garbage with the infrared red eye. You can actually precisely control everything. You just need to use ferromagnetic cookware, which if you're into cast iron, you're good. If you're not into cast iron, you just need to make sure that the easiest way to check if it's going to work is to see if a magnet sticks to your pot, and if it does, that's your pot. And then they point out this does heat up faster than gas stoves, which is another savings right there. Because when you're out and about, I mean, yeah, the cooking is fun, but you're really out. You can cook at home, but you can get back out to enjoying while you're out, right? Convenience and
Yeah.
safety. Matte black sink. Hey, look at that. My only concern with the sink being black is it shows everything when the water dries. You get water spots. A full wet bath includes a toilet and contemporary fixtures like detachable handheld shower head. This seems exciting, but again, it is a concept. So hopefully we see them actually bring this to market. Just having fun cooking that salad. I mean, unless they're telling jokes while they cook, I rarely see people smile like this when they're cooking. Let's see. In-vehicle appliances, flexible battery charging source capabilities allow for charging at home, campgrounds, and dedicated charging stations. Charging is 45 minutes at high voltage chargers. Evolving battery. So I think this will actually probably be better when it launches, because if it's going to take them another year or two to launch, then we'll have a better battery in a year or two as well. Integrated control system. That's nice. High performance wireless. That's always fun. Premium amenities. I like this. They prefer the eco-friendly. I like all these companies that they're going this way rather than just going for the cheapest. Because you want to limit your impact, and what better way to do that than not just putting a battery on it, but also by building it right to start with. And this should help speed them to market right there. The fact that it's built on the Ford Transit, and the Ford Transit is already going electric this year, right?
Wait a minute, did they say it was electrical power system from Lightning E?
Oh, they did that?
From Lightning E
Oh, it
Motors.
is from Lightning E Motors. So yeah, there we go.
Interesting.
So never mind what I said about the extra cost. So, but that also means it'll be easier for them to obtain a larger battery, because Lightning does offer bigger batteries. So this is a Lightning.
So they may have
Transit.
options. They may end up having an optional, one with a bigger battery or something.
Yeah. Electric. I'm just looking to see when the Transit EV launches this year. 2022.
Okay.
But again, the Lightning, what they do is they take a gas Transit and convert it, and they do it to spec. And so the good thing about this is that means that it's to Winnebago spec. So it's not like they took an EV Transit from Ford and then had to modify it like they do with the gas cars. They still have a lot of work to do, but so much of the base is already there. The Lightning makes their own wiring harnesses. They make their own control systems. So not only do you get the fast charging, but Winnebago can say we need X, Y, and Z, and Lightning will say done. Whereas Ford will say, here's a glider, go make it happen. It's true. All right, so then we had Brent shared an article where electric vehicle sales overtake diesel models for the first time in Europe. So let's see if that article comes up for us. Let's try it. It's over in Business Standard. Got a big old ad at the top. So a nice concept car on a concept charging station. And let's see, read our full coverage. Let's make this bigger for y'all. All right, in December, 176,000 EVs were sold in Western Europe at an all-time high of 6% increase over 2020, and only 160,000 diesel cars were sold. So 16,000 more electric cars were sold than diesel cars. The point is turning, as we said. We saw it already happen in Norway. It's happening all over the rest of the world. The folks that are denying this, they've stuck their head in the sands here. They're not seeing. It's coming. It's coming fast. And right now it was close, but watch next year. That number is going to be just wrecked. But as we see in Norway, like, people are going to mainland Europe to sell their used car, because they don't want to be left holding the bag with a fossil. And this is going to happen all over the world. And we're starting to see it happen. All these manufacturers are jumped on board. Mazda with their 100-mile electric car. Everybody else with something reasonable. It's really easy just to call out Mazda for that, because 2021, 100-mile car in 2020.
I mean, that's so 2012.
Right. If they'd done that in 2012, I would be singing their praises. But they did it 10 years later, 12 years later. Because really, 2022 is the first year you'll actually see any mass amount of them on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is exciting. And despite Dieselgate, Volkswagen has sold 452,000. This is a missing comma there. There's four numbers after the comma. Is that 4.5 billion? I don't think so. Maybe there's an extra zero at the end.
It's an
Either
extra
way,
zero. It's got to be an extra zero on there because there's no way they sold 4.5 million
right. Yeah. So
battery electric
half a
vehicles.
million.
I mean, unless they're counting hybrids.
But even does Volkswagen sell? I don't think they sell billions of cars a year from Volkswagen. It's gotta be millions.
No, not billions. I was looking at
Or sorry, million. Yeah.
4.5
I think
million.
half a million electric cars from them. Yeah.
No, yeah, I think even counting hybrids is probably 500,000 from them.
Yeah. That's probably more likely. But the time is now. Thank you, Zach. We appreciate it. Always appreciate it.
Thanks, Zach.
Let's see. Robert says he saw 600 EVs there. Absolutely. Yeah, they're spreading. And Eddie says a Miata EV would be a hit. I totally agree. And something like that, I think, would sell well. If you're the only
That
one
would
making
sell
a little
well.
spider car, yeah.
A lot of people love those little
Especially with
cars.
convertibles.
They're fun to drive, and especially they're convertible.
Yeah.
That would be a hit.
Yeah, and if you can do it for less than the 250 that Tesla wants for it, I mean, it doesn't have to match the Roadster performance. It just has to be a fun car to drive around town with the top down.
It's not going to have that type of performance. But you know what? If as long as it outperforms the gas version of that car, it would be a hit.
Exactly, and they can do that today. We see people convert their Miatas to EVs all the time, and that's at home. Imagine what you could do with real engineering behind it. I'm not saying that some of these people aren't engineers doing it at home, but like mass manufacture. Good evening, Anders. Did we see the Airstream? You know what? You have a good point. I thought I did that. Let me see if it's next. I did. Perfect timing. Let's look at the Airstream concept from Thor. Thor is the one that was making semi trucks, and they changed their name to Thor.
I love that name, Thor.
Yes. They kept their name or their logo, and so hopefully this doesn't have any music in it. Let's take a look at the Thor Mobility Towable Electric Drivetrain.
You'll love the E-Stream concept, powered by Thor's electric drivetrain. The first thing you'll notice about this remarkable EV recreational vehicle concept is its clean roofline and sleek aerodynamics, designed to reduce wind resistance and help you go farther. Underneath, it offers a smart all-electric chassis with independent.
So this is cool right here. We saw this concept on a German concept trailer a couple years ago, where they had two 85 kilowatt hour batteries, or one 85 kilowatt hour battery, but two electric motors, and its job was to zero out its impact on the tow vehicle. It was aimed at EVs, but they also sold it for gas trucks as well, because even when you're towing with a gas, you take a massive fuel economy hit on the towing, especially if you tow fast.
Independent motors and high-capacity batteries. In drive mode, when connected to a standard or electric vehicle, you'll experience improved gas mileage and range when towing, since the towable platform reduces traditional travel trailer drag and
so just like the German one. I wonder if they had any partnership with them.
Assists your tow vehicle by pushing itself forward. Just as exciting is that E-Stream takes away the stress of hitching up and backing up. You can effortlessly hitch and unhitch to your tow vehicle, using a remote control, maneuver into a campsite, and always have the perfect view every time.
That right there, I like that. Getting into some of those tight spaces with a trailer is no fun, and being able to just do it by itself, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest features right there.
Yeah, and then we're seeing right here, I think they're going to talk about it next, these solar panels on top.
Solar panels on the roof?
Yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah, I mean, and you could probably charge it through regen, but you don't really want to do that. But you can charge it by plugging it into the campsite. It's probably got a J1772 or DC fast charge on board, which is nice. Let's see what else they have to say about it.
The benefit of this platform concept is its ability through advanced sensors to improve stability and remove the need for a weight distribution hitch. No doubt you will experience.
And that's big because on the Model X, you're not allowed to use a weight distribution hitch. If you do, and something goes wrong, then Tesla says, "Yep, no warranty."
Better comfort when traveling, greater convenience, fewer stops, more time for the things that matter most. Let the E-Stream concept streamline your next adventure.
And that's probably what I would be more inclined to do than the Ford concept is I would probably be more inclined to go for a trailer because then it doesn't have to stay there the whole time.
I like it. I like it a lot.
The solar and I like the fact that they took up a notch from the German concept with getting rid of the need for the distribution hitch. But I mean that's 3-4 years of advancement in chip technology, so it's probably very easy for them to do that. I can't wait to see some of these actually on the road, both as the camper trailers, but also for like as box trailers. Like if you need to haul something from somewhere to somewhere else, and like smoke, for instance, you put it in the trailer, and the trailer has some batteries in it, and it also doesn't affect the range on your Cybertruck when you go to pull it. I think that's pretty cool. I agree. It's probably going to be about $70,000 or more, especially when you consider it's got 2 batteries.
It'd be more because of the batteries. I would guess probably. Well, I don't know. $70,000 might be about right.
With one battery, with 2 batteries, I might expect to see about 90 to 120. And it's a good medium size. I like it. The question is, did they get a discount from Airstream? Because the Airstream trailer itself is already premium priced. Or will they use?
So this might be over. It might be over 6 figures for this thing.
It could be. Let's hope not, though. Andrew says, nice. Trailers and motorhomes are the best use case for solar and mobile. Yeah, I agree, because you got a completely flat roof. They're going to be sitting there for a while, and as long as you don't park them under a tree, and in fact, if you're off-gridding, like you're parked out in the middle of a state park or something where there's no hookups, you would definitely not want to park under a tree because that's your air conditioner, that's your TV at night, your cooking, all that. A similar version on Airstream site is $50,000. Okay, so $50,000 plus $22,000 for one battery, using Tesla pricing. I'm assuming that another manufacturer could match that customer pricing.
Plus profit. Yeah, you're looking at maybe $85,000, $90,000.
And then another 22 for the second battery. So.
No, second battery. Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, and then maybe $5,000 for the motors. How much is the Model 3 motor? 3,000 each.
About was it 4K?
Oh, for customer use, it's probably $5,000. Yeah, with labor.
4 or 5K. So
yeah. So it might be scraping at 6 figures, but I think it should be workable. Neato. And then we had a Business Insider article on the SpaceX contract, which I thought was easier to read. It's part of a program which will look at using large commercial rockets for the U.S. military. And the program manager told Space News that the Air Force plans to award other companies contracts too, which makes sense. There's that. Let's see if I can't find that other window. Bear with me. You want to give us an update on smoke while I do this, Marcus?
Yeah, pretty much. We're just in the stage of waiting on some stuff to come. Basically, the brakes for one. So I'm upgrading brakes. It's just everything's on back order. Because of chip shortage in my seats. I got some custom fiber seats. The emulators in them because I'm doing everything the right way. I'm not cutting no short way on it and rigging things up. And I don't want to see sign error codes on the dash. Even though it's gonna be a race car, I got OCD about that kind of stuff. But I'm just being patiently and just trying to learn the cars. Matter of fact, I got a photo shoot in the next hour, so I got some guys coming in to do a major photo shoot and some roll shots for it. So,
nice.
But everybody's waiting to see. What's that?
Yeah. I was saying I found the window.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's exciting. I mean, I like the preview you sent me of the seats. I think that you guys in the audience will enjoy it as well.
Yeah.
So let's look at these last couple that I had saved for later. Tesla product roadmap for Q4 2021 and full year financial results earning call scheduled for January 26, 2022. So if you catch us over at the Tesla Life show, right here at /the Tesla Life, we are going to not cover it live this time, but we're going to listen to it and then we're going to summarize the call in the beginning of the show. I think that will be fun. But what's important here is Elon's back. He's back at the. He didn't stay away for very long from the conference calls.
He can't help himself.
Right. But the beauty of this is that he's going to give us. It's been about 2 years since we got an update on the Cybertruck, and he says, "Oh man, this has been such a supply chain nightmare. It's not over. I'll provide an updated product roadmap on the next earnings call, which is Wednesday." If you want to listen yourself, you can go to ir.tesla.com, and they stream it there from their own YouTube. Oh, it's usually YouTube, but sometimes it's this weird HTML5 player. It used to be Flash. That's at 5:30 Eastern Time, 4:30 Central. The reason they say 4:30 Central instead of Pacific is, well, headquarters is now in Austin instead of Palo Alto, so that's why they even bother with the 1 hour time difference rather than the 3 hours they used to do. So it would be exciting to get the update on the future product roadmap. Hopefully they don't do another super secret letter. They can just tell us what it is. And when I say super secret letter, it was not really all that secret. It was just published to their website. But we don't really need it that way.
The earnings call is at 5:30.
Yes.
Is this going to be on Elon time?
Typically, he's better at it on the earnings calls. I think the latest he's been on the earnings calls was 20 minutes.
Okay.
But it's usually closer to 5 or 10 minutes late. If they don't start right on time, they usually start. Not usually. They often start right on time.
Good.
I don't want to say usually. Yeah. And then it's recorded, so you can play it back later. And then there's a couple other YouTubers that will stream it directly, but for some reason we chose not to do that for the Tesla Life. Probably because sometimes it does run long and overlaps with the start of our regular show, so that's probably why. So then we talked about the heat pump issue last week, and Tesla Canada is investigating the heat pump issues. And I think this is a good thing just to keep everybody honest. And if Tesla's right and it's all software, then this is a non-issue. And if Tesla's not right about it, then they're still going to do the right thing, but this just gives them extra incentive to do the right thing. So
I think it's going to be a hardware issue.
I think at least partially for some of the cars it'll be a hardware issue.
I think it's a hardware issue that they're trying to solve with software workaround.
Yeah,
and
I can see that.
I think they can solve it with the software workaround, but that's not an optimal way to do it. And I think they're going to change some things with the vehicle that they're just going to, change quietly. You know how they always make improvements along the way.
Either a bulletin or a stealth recall.
I don't know if they're going to do a recall or not. They'll probably I think they're going to try to solve it with software, and then just make hardware improvements going forward for vehicles going forward.
Yeah. And I've commented in the past, the past couple of days. I think that this will see a proper solution. If they can't fix it with software, we will see a full-on recall, if not an inspection, just to replace the part. Because when you look at cars that ship without any systems for climate control, no heat, no air, none of that, they'll have windshield wipers, and they'll have a defogger. Not even necessarily a de-icer, defroster, a defogger, like literally to remove the cloud from your window, and that is a safety issue. So if it's not able to defog, I have a feeling this is going to be responded to more severely by the government than they did with a missing backup camera, because even the government said, hey, if your backup camera's missing, do this, check over your shoulder. If you can't clear the window in the fall, winter, and spring, that's dangerous.
That's a big problem, right?
Yeah, so they will respond a lot more aggressively to this if they think that Tesla's not moving fast enough or not doing it the right way. And then even if they do feel that Tesla's doing adequate, I think they will help amplify to get the message out, to make sure that if you're affected, that either you get Tesla out to you, or you download the software update, or you get into Tesla to get the corrections made. Because if you can't see, you're likely to run into stuff. And if you can't see going forward, that's a lot more dangerous than the camera not working in reverse. But rest assured, I think that it's going to be fine. And so some folks were making this out as this huge, oh, this guy is falling. It's serious, and I think that all folks involved are going to do the right thing. And that's why I'm glad to see Canada hopping on board, doing their part as well, just to make sure, keeping everybody honest.
And I find it interesting that it seems to not just to be only affecting certain cars, because I live in a cold climate area. In the winter, we get cold weather. It's below freezing now. But I haven't had any problems with mine thus far. So I find that interesting.
I'm wondering if we'll find that maybe there was a part that they substituted in during the part shortage, or maybe they didn't put enough particular coolant pressure or something like that in on them, or
maybe it's an issue that your car has to be parked outside for extended periods of time in the cold, and then you try to
extreme cold.
While you preheat it, while it's sitting idle outside for a long period of time, not driving, maybe that's when it gets the issue.
Well, Tesla's response was that you should preheat it longer. So I'm wondering if maybe if you try to start it too quickly and there's just not enough heat in the system to move around or something. Because most of the people we saw with the problem are under negative 15 degrees. I don't know if it's 15 Celsius or Fahrenheit, but either way, it was negative a significant amount for the folks that were most affected by this. And Tesla's response was just preheat it longer. So you're right. Maybe it's just like the right conditions for this particular configuration to experience it. Let's see here. I was going out getting ice off the neighbors' cars. Yeah, it's been frosty here. Like my doorbell's complaining that it can't charge the battery because it's too cold for lithium to be. Yeah, it's too cold for lithium to be recharged safely, and so it's just like and the system, as we saw on the previous shows, they're using a scroll compressor, and we saw them take one apart. We saw them take a Honda one apart and compare them, and the Honda one was much cleaner than the Tesla one. And then they were complaining that there were no good Tesla ones to look at. And I pointed out that most of these cars are under warranty, so there shouldn't be. Except for maybe if Sandy took his apart. That might be an exception. But remember, Sandy's in a business, so he's going to want some money to do some of this.
Yep.
Right, and it does sound something that would have more like Canada, Dakotas, Michigan.
Well, I mean, that's why Tesla has an Alaska team, right? So they do test some of these things and look at it
in
this colder climate area.
Right, but if this is a partial substitution issue because of the supply chain, maybe the substitution was done after the winter team already evaluated the car, and they said, oh, this should be right on paper, but in practicality, it's not right. And so they had to either work around it with software, or it's still sounding like they're going to have to physically replace at least some of these units. All right, and then this one, a lot of people were crying the sky is falling. I think we might have already talked about it. I was not as concerned. Tesla removed the estimated delivery date for people who go to the Cybertruck site and put in an order today. Come on.
So does that mean it's getting pushed back again?
Possibly.
Or it's just so many pre-orders that they don't even want to give you an estimated date because they don't know when they're going to get to you because they just have too many pre-orders.
So if you order today, another one, because your other one is years ahead in the line than the one you ordered today, that one is not going to arrive anywhere close to the time of the first one. And so Tesla, I think, is just managing expectations. And so if they say 2022, that's not even going to be true for anybody who orders today. Even if they said, early 2023, that, again, you're at the back of the line. It's a long line. So there is a small chance that the first ones don't arrive until the first quarter of 2023. I don't think that's a huge delay, anything to write massive news about. I mean, this thing's already delayed by a couple of years from when they wanted to get it out. So
I still think they're going to start Q4 of this year.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I think they'll have a party.
The fact that they're they have the structural packs that they're going to be starting on the Model Y. It means that the 4680 cells are kind of production ready, and if the 4680 cells are ready, and the gigafactories in Texas and Germany are up and running and everything, I think we're going to start seeing Cybertrucks by the end of this year. And
I think we'll see a handful, yeah.
And maybe full ramped up production isn't going to be till 2023, but and obviously if you put in an order right now, you're not getting it for at least a couple years.
So I got an order today. It says order with card, $100. There's no options for full self-drive or not. There's no options for what motor I want. Just give us $100, get in line. Cool.
So when we get to your place in line, then you can configure what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's quad motor or... I have a feeling that they're going to do away with the single motor option.
I think so too.
It's just going to be dual motor and up.
Look at the Model Y. The only place we ever saw the single motor rear-wheel drive Model Y was in China. And even then, it's still hard to get.
Hey, let me. I really, after speaking with someone several weeks ago, and just especially I was just speaking on how the Tesla stuff works and so on and so on. But and this chip shortage is really real. Like it really, really puts effect on things, and a lot of people don't really see that or understand the real concept. It really messed things up and have things all out of whack. I was told even from like some of their computer software to help get the production lines properly running and so on and so on. It's just real.
That's another very good point. Is the machine that builds the machine also uses chips, and they're a lot harder to substitute than the ones in the car.
So
I didn't even think about that. That could be part of what was slowing down both places, aside from regulations in Berlin and people pretending to care about the cardboard forest.
So it taught me a lot about being patient on things, just patience. You got no other choice.
Right.
Then on the Tesla Life, we talked about how the steel supplier for the Cybertruck is building their plant in Stinson, Texas, and it should start operation next month. So all these signs point that the Cybertruck is getting closer, not further away. So,
well, I mean, if the steel plant is starting next month, I mean, that's a really good sign that Tesla's going to have
because
what it needs to build those bodies, but by the end of this year.
Right, because if they're not ready, the only other use for this particular steel is on Starship, and we saw they were already fine with building Starship the way it is. So that's two vehicles that really need this steel, and they need to come out affordably. So you got the Cybertruck, and then you've got the Starship, and both of them are kind of a little bit in limbo, and this further solidifies their situation. I hope the pricing increase doesn't get too far from our original price. I agree, and I hope that that original price kind of gets you a similar quality for what you're expecting. So if you went for the Plaid Cybertruck, that hopefully that means that's the kind of price you should be able to expect on the quad motor. Hopefully, it would be a bad experience to make the people wait, and if they were going for the top of the line, and then say, oh well, that's only true on the base model, and oh by the way, we need another $6,000 for $5,000 for FSD. I think that would put a bad taste in people's mouths. But we've seen that Tesla doesn't always care about that, so we can only hope that they do the. I mean, how many of us will be affected by this? Hopefully, they can afford to eat that, and then the people in line now who have to just give us $100, they can make it up in volume. Personally. All right, so we talked about FSD beta in Canada.
Well, I think the most expensive part of the vehicle, remember, is still going to be the batteries. And
yes.
the 4680 cells are going to make those batteries much cheaper.
Right.
So
And just because you add a motor doesn't mean you added batteries.
right. So the motor itself is, let's just say, motor is $4,000
Retail with
retail,
installation.
which
Yeah.
means let's just say it's $3,000.
Yeah.
Well,
And probably even
the
less
price
labor if
difference
they
between the
don't have a
single motor
factory.
and remember the price difference between the single motor and the dual motor was $10,000.
Yeah.
So even if it costs $3,000, they still have a $7,000 cushion built in there.
Yeah.
So, they could, I think that by them eliminating the single motor option, that's going to allow them
They can just shift everything. I would like that.
the cushion that's going to allow them to still.
And they could just give the dual motor to the folks like they did with the Model S60 versus the
Right.
Model S40. So you had a 60 that was capped. So I can see that. You'd have a dual motor that only runs one motor at a time.
Or I mean, I
Or
guess
just do it.
I guess my point is like the amount of profit margin that's going to be built in. I think maybe for the people that did already order the single motor,
Yeah.
we give that to them. Just use the same battery as the dual motor, probably, even though that might be a little bit more battery than they were originally going to get or whatnot. But just make good on those orders, and then eliminate it from there and no longer sell the single motor, because then their profit margin just gets better.
Right.
For other iterations.
I'm sure there's a lot of fleet managers that'll be fine with all-wheel drive. They don't necessarily have to have rear-wheel drive. For the
fleets.
I
mean, the only reason why anybody would order rear-wheel drive only is just for price. It's not because they want rear-wheel drive versus all-wheel drive. So all-wheel drive is just better in every way than rear-wheel drive only. So
because it's not like there's a drive shaft on it like regular trucks.
Right.
And even then, they order rear-wheel drive only for the price.
Right.
Yeah. Very rarely do you have you have that truck that moves the float planes where they re-engineered it so that the cab is in the back. But I think even specialized cases like that, the amount of folks that could not take advantage of the front wheel drive are slim. Let's see, sales numbers. We'll skip that. We talked about sales in Europe. So this was one I wanted to touch on right here. Back in 2019, there was a person on autopilot on the city streets that ran a red light and unfortunately killed some folks. And I agree with what they did of charging the driver, because the driver was responsible. And a lot of places I was surprised to see didn't go for the hype, and they were focused on the fact that this guy was misusing the system. Remember, stoplight and stop sign control beta didn't come out for another couple months into 2020. I think it was April. I looked it up. April, March. So this driver we know was completely misusing the system, because at the time, depending on your trim package, it still does. If the car is able to activate auto steer on a road with a traffic light, it'll just go through. Red light, green light, whatever, it'll just keep going. And that's the same thing that a car on cruise control will do. It'll just go through. Or, like we're talking, a basic cruise control like my 95 pickup. It'll go through red lights. It doesn't have cameras. and so, unfortunately, somebody lost their life. But thankfully, the focus is on the right thing of holding people accountable for when they're in behind the wheel of these missiles. And then, of course, there are the anti-Tesla places that did have to make a big stink about it, but they never.
That's not really. It's not Tesla's fault. You can't blame. Right. That's like me driving down the street, turning on cruise control in a gas car, and then blaming the car when I don't stop at a red light and I kill somebody.
Exactly.
I can't blame the car. That's on me. And that's equivalent, basically, of what they did.
Exactly, that's exactly what they did. As Mike said, good call by the prosecutor to put responsibility on the driver. Carol says, gross negligence. So the manslaughter charge seems just because, he ran a red light. Basic autopilot had no support for red lights back then. And even today, as I said on the Tesla Life, My car has missed a red light once or twice on FSD, and it did it with stoplight and stoplight control beta. Up to 3 times it missed traffic light. But I'm the driver. I saw the red light. I pushed the button being the brake pedal, and came down to a stop. Aggressive because it was a little later than I would have done it, and the software would have done it. But you're responsible. The car doesn't have a driver's license. You do.
And you're in the driver's seat, so you're still considered the driver. It's not fully autonomous, go to sleep, take a nap and wake up at your destination. We're not there yet, so therefore you can't. The onus is still on you.
Exactly. Where's the 4x4 tax? That's a good question. We don't have one in most of the country here, though. There's one for ATVs, though, on some places. Right, so this was one I pulled up. I don't remember us actually talking about it. I pulled it up to talk about it a couple weeks ago. Days ago? Whatever. This city in France has decided that they're not going to deal with the incentives they were getting on having a hydrogen bus manufacturer move in and then buying the hydrogen buses and running them. They determined that it would still be cheaper to run an EV bus, and so that's what they're going to do. Which is the right thing, and I'm glad they did it, but it's amazing. And hydrogen, as my friend Patrick points out, hydrogen could work on a bus if you do it right, but as I keep saying,
hydrogen is still a lot less efficient. Energy-wise, you're wasting a lot of energy. It's more efficient to do batteries.
Yeah, it totally is. And as I said, it's more energy efficient and everything, except for in that handful of cases, like that island in I think it's Wales, where they've got so much wind power but not enough capacity to send it back to the mainland, and they can't use it all locally. So rather than shutting down their windmills, they crack water into hydrogen, and in that case, it kind of makes some sense. Only because the millions of dollars.
That energy is wasted anyway. Yeah,
it would be wasted. Yeah, so many millions of dollars to build new pipeline, or not new pipeline, but new overseas undersea cable. They won't build the cable unless they're either A, you pay for it, or B, you can guarantee that, hey, over the next couple of years, here's your growth rate. By the way, we need this much, and then you need this much room to grow on top of that. What they're afraid of is that they would get the new cable in, and all the local landowners would just put in more windmills, and so it would be full right away. And so they're running a delicate balance. And so what they're doing while all of that works its way through the process is politics. It's land rights. It's a lot of moving parts to get an undersea cable done, and especially one for power. And so what they're doing is they're just bottling hydrogen.
Sounds to me like they need some megapacks or something.
Right? Oh, that'd be awesome. Put some megapacks on a ferry and just keep circling them. That could be done. That could be done. I wonder if they have a connector for that. Business opportunity, guys. If you're in Europe and you want to help that island better use their power, and you got some money for some megapacks on a ferry, I think that's a good idea. Because remember how much energy is lost in the hydrogen chain. So even if you're losing energy going back and forth to battery instead of running over a straight straight undersea cable, you probably still come out ahead over what they're getting for that hydrogen. You could make some money and save the planet at the same time. So they're going to have 50 hydrogen buses over 2 years, and now they're going to have some electric buses. They expect it'll cost them $1.08 per kilometer equivalent for hydrogen buses, compared to 17 cents per kilowatt hour per kilometer for electric bus. That's substantial.
That's a huge difference.
10x, baby. I mean, and this graphic just kind of points it out. Like, here is the cycle for electric. You get power from the sun. It goes in a solar panel. You put it in a battery. You use it. You get it from the sun. You store it in hydrogen, or you crack it into hydrogen. You store the hydrogen. You distribute the hydrogen. You store it again and then redistribute it. You get it into the car. You convert it back to electricity, and then you use it.
A lot of inefficiencies built into that hydrogen
and
scenario.
every connection is a loss. So here you have 1, 2 connections to lose, and 3 if you count using it back. Here you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, and then all the while in both of these stages, even here and there, the hydrogen is leaking out of the walls of the vessel that's holding it. It's just punching through. And if you're lucky, you can use it for a while before it embrittles the vessel, and then you have to replace it.
And not to mention,
I like that, Eddie. It's how we changed our mind.
yes, they did.
Yeah. One thing Patrick pointed out is that one item that did help them change their mind was a change in the mayor. So we're not sure if nobody looked at the numbers before, or if somebody was having a little Florida Power and Light situation and just went through with it anyway. That's callbacks. Yeah, so I don't want to accuse anybody of any greasing the politics wheels, but it could have been just negligence where they didn't even look at the numbers, and then the new guy came in and they said, hey, let's review everything we've got coming up to spend money on. Oh, snap, this makes no sense. $1.08 versus 17 cents. And so they fixed it before they committed themselves too deeply. And then we talk about go grow occasionally, because I like their concept of the scooter stack. And so they have a press release of their new line of scooters that are compatible with this over in India and elsewhere, Taiwan in this case. So that's pretty cool. I like that you don't have to charge them in your house, and you don't have to find a charging station. You can just walk by this, boop boop, pop in some new ones, swipe your card, and you're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
Anything to make it easier.
Yep.
Yeah. The only downside is when the bus has to charge. Well, see, that's the beauty of the buses is, unless there's a breakdown, they have a completely known route, schedule, everything. So some of the electric buses charge on the route, like they have a longer stop where the driver has to take their stretch breaks or whatever. And at those locations, there's often an overhead charger, or depending on who your bus provider is, you can have a charging station built right there as well, either level 2 or DC fast charge. And the rates that they DC fast charge at, even the buses can get done in 90 minutes to a reasonable level of charge, like for a whole shift. So like while one driver's off eating lunch and waiting for the next one to come on, you give it a fast charge, and then it's ready to go for the whole next shift. My grandmother always used to remind me of the Hindenburg. Hopefully it doesn't go that way, but you have a point. Like, how many stations have we seen blow up? What, 3 in the last couple of years in the U.S.? Yeah.
It's definitely much more likely than, a EV charging station having some kind of fire.
Right, and if it does, the EV charging station isn't going to leave a crater.
Right, it's
you're
not
going to lose 1 or 2 units. Yeah,
it's not going to be explosive like that.
Yeah, you lose 1 or 2 units, and maybe the car that was hooked up to it if you can't get it unplugged. And then on the hydrogen,
it destroys everything in like a radius,
a
huge radius, and everything's destroyed.
Hydrogen bomb, but not like a weapon, but just like literally. This is a lot of hydrogen here, add flame, and because obviously an actual bomb would be even more hydrogen packed in there, and they, it's nuclear. They do that on purpose. But these ones, there was one, was it Jersey or New York that went off? It took out like a block and a half of stuff around it.
Was it Philly? I don't remember.
Could have been Philly. There's one on the East Coast. There's 1 or 2 in California, 1 in Canada.
There's one in New York.
Yeah, I don't even know how many.
Or it might have been 2
Europe.
in Europe. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't even know how many overseas. So it's a real concern, and the only reason that these people do it is it keeps that go to a place, fill up mentality. You can't do it at home. You have to go to a place and you have to fill up, and what it comes out to be is Roughly a kilogram is equivalent to a gallon of gas, but the last time I compared the prices, it was 6 times the price. So if gas was $1 a gallon back then it wasn't. But let's just keep it easy. Then it was $6 per kilogram for the hydrogen, and the, you still needed more of it because you had to compress it, and it didn't hold as much. Same problem as a regular electric car. It just didn't. It just refueled faster, but it had all the same stuff that we consider to be stuff that you have to work around in an electric car versus a gas car.
Yeah, I think the battery electric is definitely more stable, safer,
Yeah,
less cost, more cost efficient,
energy efficient.
energy efficient. I mean, just so many reasons. It just doesn't. I understand why Elon called fuel cell vehicles fool cells, because it just
Yeah,
doesn't make sense.
just like we saw with this when this mayor came in. He said, "We're doing what now? For how much? Let's make those buses EV." So at least we know he wasn't an old think like the solar anti-solar bills going through. He didn't replace them with diesel buses. He said, "All right, let's just go electric. It'll meet our goal and cost us less." So we'll catch you on the flip side. Thanks again, Zach. All right, there we go. Great.